All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the August meeting of the City of Binghamton Planning Commission. My name is Nick Corcoran. I'm currently the chairman of this commission, which is comprised of local community members tasked with reviewing site plans and special use permits with consistency with the standards and criteria set forth in the City of Binghamton Code. Based on our total number of planning commission members, 4 members must be present to constitute a quorum. Tonight we have 5 members. Tonight we have 6 members, which means we do have a quorum and can proceed. First item on the agenda is roll call. Joseph D'Angelo. Chris Judgeets.
Hurricane.
All right. Mario DeFulvio. Steve Ciprasad. Kelly Weiss. And Manny Priest is going to be absent tonight. All right. Second item on the agenda is the approval of last month's minutes. Everybody have a chance to review minutes? Anybody see any errors, omissions, anything they need changed? And are there any motions? All right, motion by Kelly, seconded by Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, on to our next agenda item. All right, so we're on to seeker determinations. In this portion of our meeting, the Planning Commission will be reviewing documentation provided by applicants for the first time. Applicants will be called to the microphone where they will be asked to make a presentation describing their plans to the commission. Commission members may then ask questions of the applicant to clarify any items that are unclear. After all questions have been answered, the commission will deliberate and then either set a public hearing date for the project or request additional information before proceeding. To all applicants that will be presenting tonight, we ask that you please state your name and address for our records before beginning your presentation. And we ask that any member of your team who will be speaking, please give their name and address for our public record. All right, tonight, our first seeker determination is for the applicant Crowley Factory Lofts LLC. Project address is 135 Conklin Ave. This is a site plan review and special use permit for the conversion of an existing industrial facility to a mixed use building with 48 dwelling units and 8,900 square feet of lower level commercial space in the C4 neighborhood commercial district. Welcome. All right, excellent. What are you thinking about doing? All right, 1 second. I think the microphone might not be on. If you push the button till it turns green.
How about now?
All right, and then get right on down into it. They're
All right.
They're pretty sensitive.
So
Beautiful.
it's
Thank
the Crowley Milk Factory. We are planning on turning the first floor into 2 commercial spaces and also indoor parking. The outside, we're going to redo the existing parking lots and the loading dock area into a new parking lot to provide the necessary parking spaces. The 2 upper floors will contain 48 apartments. We are going for the SHPO and NPS tax credits, state and national tax credits. So we'll have to meet the interior of the Secretary of the Interior standards for that, preserving a lot of what's already in there. That's pretty much what we plan on doing with it.
All right. All right, any questions or comments to start? Chris?
Yeah, question for the applicant. I looked over these plans and maybe I just didn't see it. I don't see anything on here for garbage collection, dumpsters and interior garbage rooms or whatever your garbage plans are. What am I missing?
So I do have over here on the east side of the building, I'm showing one dumpster there for now. We'll probably have to have more than that. And we're in the early stages of the planning.
Oh, okay. That's in call out A. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
And then we're still kind of in the early stages of planning. So we do have some space on the interior that we can add some garbage collection areas for that.
Okay. If in theory, if this is drawn to scale, that looks like a very small dumpster Or such a large building?
Yeah, it should, we'll probably need more than one dumpster, obviously. That should be the size of one of the commercial ones that you'd see outside a building, but
Okay. And I see Tito's walked away. I was gonna ask, because I am not an expert on planning minutia, what kind of requirements we should be asking of the applicant to, I don't want to say decorate, but sometimes we require like, fencing so it's not visible from the street, all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure what the rules are. In theory, are you willing to abide by whatever rules Tito and the others in planning say to
yeah,
make
definitely.
this appropriate?
We do have on each side of the building, that portion, we don't have just the trash enclosed right now, but we are enclosing the parking lot on that side to be a gated parking lot, as well on the west side, a portion of that will be a gated parking lot. So the trash collection won't be visible from the road or anything like that, but.
All right, excellent. And as far as repaving or anything, you're reusing the existing asphalt, or you're going to be repaving completely?
I believe the plan at the moment is to repave. There's some decent spots out there that are kind of rough, so.
Okay.
Planning on using the existing curb cuts and everything like that, so we're not redoing anything.
All right. As far as you're under an acre of disturbance, so you don't need to do the full stormwater permits.
As far as I know, I think I believe the whole site is about an acre and a half, and taking out the building area, I think we're under an acre.
Great. All right. How about bike parking?
There is, I guess I didn't call it out on here. For some reason, I'm thinking it said existing buildings were exempt, but if not, we've got space in this back area. Where the screen space is, that's going to be an entrance, so we have space over there that we can add bike parking if we need to.
All right. All right, and at this point, the area is labeled commercial tenant. You don't have a tenant, so you don't know
No.
exactly what the use will be.
Yeah, right now they're just kind of spaces that we're predetermining for that use, but we don't have specific tenants at the moment.
Okay, so when you did your bulk table for parking requirements, you must have assumed one of the uses that's in the table.
I think we assumed business, but I'm not positive.
For what the number that we put in the staff report is based on general retail.
General retail.
Okay.
Okay, great. And you have all your parking spaces on site, no variances.
Yep, yeah, all of them are on site. We've got I think it has it in the staff report. I think we've got 50 or 61 on the outside and 9 on the inside.
Okay,
70 total.
Yeah.
all right. And I see on each floor plan, you've got the stack coming through. It's in some of the apartments.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything cool with that?
We haven't quite planned anything. It'll be visible from inside the apartments. We're not gonna disturb it really at all. That's probably gonna be one of the character defining features of the building. So
Yeah.
we're gonna keep it.
Put windows into it or anything, and
That's a possibility.
All
We'll
right.
have to look into it.
still up in the air. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion that the proposal is a seeker type 2 action per NYCCRR.6 because it involves the reuse of a structure containing mixed residential and commercial uses where the residential or commercial use is a permitted use under the applicable zoning law or ordinance, including permitted by special use permit, and the action does not meet or exceed any of the thresholds in section 617.4. So therefore, no further environmental review is required. It's my motion, seconded by Chris. All in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. And I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for this project at our September meeting at 5:20. All right, second by Steve, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, so we see you back in September and we'll have a public hearing and see if anybody comes to
Great.
make comments about your project.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Our next applicant tonight is James Slocum. Project address is 53 Chenango Street. This is a site plan review and special use permit for the conversion of the upper stories of an existing commercial building to 30 dwelling units in the C2 downtown business district. Welcome back.
Hello,
Hello.
James Slocum, 81 State Street. We are here to seek approval to convert a existing office building into 56 dwelling units with a total of 80 bedrooms. Floors 4 through 8 will consist of 4 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units on each floor. And floors 2 and 3 will have 7 one-bedroom units, 5 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom unit.
I just want to point out that we got a floor plan today from the applicant that shows those numbers. The floor plan we had originally had a different number of units, so the staff report is going to show less units than what he just said.
Yes, I believe the staff report is missing the third floor, and the second and third floor are identical. So at least you can have an idea of what it'll look like.
All right. All right, no changes to the exterior of the building,
No,
just all internal.
Correct.
All right. Chris?
As I asked the previous applicant, can you tell us what the plan is for garbage disposal? I'm not seeing anything on the plans for dumpsters or garbage
sure,
collection rooms.
sure. So on the staff report, you can see the corner of Henry Street and Commercial Alley. There's already a dumpster there with plenty of room to increase it in size.
I'm sorry, one more, where am I looking here on the staff report?
On the staff report, there's 4 pictures. One is labeled view from the corner of Henry Street and Commercial Alley.
Okay,
And you'll see in the back corner, there's a dumpster there.
okay.
And
And that dumpster that I'm seeing there is part of the current location for the current tenants?
yes.
Okay.
Are there any plans to bring the dumpster up to code requirements? Enclosing it?
There are not currently any such plans, but if that's a demand for us, then it's something we will obviously work towards.
Okay,
I think we would encourage that and maybe a revised set before the public hearing. Yes, it would be looked kindly upon.
Okay,
all right. All right, one of the big comments is about the basement. So this building does have a basement.
I did get a chance to read through the comments. Now, the comments show bathrooms and a kitchen in the basement. Due to the slope of the property, what is considered the basement at the Chenango Street side is actually the ground level retail space that you see on the Holly Street side. So where you see the kitchens and bathrooms in the quote unquote basement or ground level. It's really retail space.
Okay. All right, so this isn't like any of the other applications we've seen recently where the basement didn't have any defined use, but turned into an enormous party room.
There will be no party rooms here. No, this underneath the tower section is what I call the side of the building that goes up 8 stories. There is a traditional basement that's currently used for storage. We don't have any plans for any party space. We have all with the exception of 2 units, they're all 1 and 2 bedroom units there.
Okay,
We don't even plan to target students here, so be a little bit different of a feel.
okay.
So for the record, what is your vision and plan for room 2 on the existing basement plan? If that's what I'm trying to refer to here. Is that what it's labeled as here? If I zoom this from the 4-point font? Yeah. Room 2.
Yeah, so if you look at room 2 on the floor plan, and if you look at the view from Henry Street on the staff report, that is the ground level where all the windows are. So the windows that are set back behind the pillars in that picture are actually, there's actually 2 floors in that, of which used to be a electrical manufacturer, and they have staircases that go between the 2 floors. So we currently do not have a set plan for that space. We're working with a company now that we're in hopes is going to rent that space. But as of right now, the space is to be left as is, as office / retail space.
Okay. But the point is you're envisioning a retail or commercial tenant in that space.
We're hopeful for that, yes.
Could I suggest that the floor plan be labeled that way? So whatever's a commercial tenant space be labeled, whatever's part of the nightclub space be labeled, just so it's clear what's going to get
Absolutely.
a commercial tenant and what's going to
Yes.
be basement.
Mhm.
Can you make sure that none of those labels are party room, please?
Absolutely.
All right.
Just have a question. I'm looking at the page of the plan, proposed floors 4 through 8. And the 1-bedroom apartments, these have 2 full baths, but no closets. Am I seeing this right?
You are seeing it right. We just printed it wrong. So the revised floor plan removes one of those bathrooms, and it's actually a walk-in closet next to a bathroom. Who is this dummy?
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Is the building currently empty?
The building is currently mostly empty. All of the tenants are month to month, with the exception of one who are kind of working around to see their plans, and their lease is up in December.
All right. And this is where Blue Cross and Hurlburt Engineering were previously.
Yes.
Are they still there or they're gone?
Blue Cross is gone.
Okay.
The engineering firm is still there, but they're month to month at this point.
Gotcha.
About probably 25 to 30% occupied. And the companies that are there, since COVID, they came back. The ones that did come back are kind of at a reduced need for office space. So the ones that are there, most of them are looking for smaller spaces anyway.
Gotcha. All right. All right, if there's no other questions, comments or concerns. I'll make a motion that the proposal involves the reuse of an existing commercial building, which is a type 2 action under seeker, and that no further environmental review is required. Second by Steve, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. And I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the project at 5:25 at our September meeting. Second by Steve, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you.
See you back in September. All right, our next applicant tonight is Greater Opportunities for Broome and Chenango. The project address is 32 to 34 Munsell Street and 75 to 77 Liberty Street. This is a site plan review and special use permit for the construction of 2 new multi-unit dwellings containing a total of 12 units and 18 total bedrooms and an associated parking area in the R3 multi-unit dwelling district. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. My name is Kelly Robertson. I'm Deputy Director of Greater Opportunities. My address is 30 Kirkwood Ave, Binghamton, New York.
And I'm Patricia Every from PA Every Architect, 31 Oak Ridge Drive, Binghamton.
All right. So what are you thinking about doing?
So as part of our 3949 Munsell Street, Greater Opportunities purchased 31 through 33 Munsell Street from the city of Binghamton. And it's just vacant land right now, as well as 32, 34 Munsell and 75, 77. They're just empty vacant lots. So we're proposing to create 2 buildings, 2 floors per building, 6 units per building, 3 one-bedroom units and 3 two-bedroom units in each building. Or is it 6 and 6? Sorry, 6. One building has 6 one-bedrooms, one building has 6 two-bedrooms, and 6 of the units will be reserved for individuals 62 years of age and older, with the remaining 6 units being for individuals with low incomes between 30% and 80% AMI.
All right.
To add the first floor building or first floor units will be ADA compliant.
Okay. Great. All right. Any questions or comments? Chris?
Yes, question for the applicant. Reviewing the planning department staff report, they've noted that this project is an expansion of a previous development centered on 39 Munsell Street, and that some of the required landscaping for said previous project has not been completed. Can you comment on
We
that?
have all the landscaping done now. The project was ongoing. We're just finishing up on Munsell Street, so I'm not really sure. We have not been notified by the city of Binghamton that any landscaping is not completed or that we're in non-compliance with landscaping issues.
Yeah,
Guido,
so,
can you shed some light on that?
yeah, the biggest gap is on the Lion Street side. The landscape buffer in the parking area back there is supposed to have shrubs and trees. It's just grass, and there's trees missing, required trees missing throughout. We just didn't want to jump to sending a notice of violation right away. Just wanted to try to maybe correct it through this process because this is a site plan modification of the previous approval.
And that project is not closed yet, so we're still working on things over there.
All right. So no problem finishing off the previously
Absolutely
approved plan. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, comments?
I did notice on the comments, there was a review about combining the properties. We cannot do that per the city of Binghamton restricted covenant on the property. So we tried to do that when we were doing the 3949 Munsell Street project, and we were told by the city lawyers because of the restricted covenant, we can't do that.
All right.
great.
Did you say it would be great if you could?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right. If there's no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion that the proposal is an unlisted action under seeker and that the planning commission should act as lead agency for seeker review. All right, second by Kelly. All in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. And I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the project at 5:30 at our September meeting. All right, second by Steve, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, we'll see you back in September.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes seeker determinations. And now we're on to public hearings and final deliberations. In this portion of our meeting, we'll be holding open public hearings to obtain public opinion in regard to specific projects that are up for review. Applicants will be asked to come to the microphone and make a brief presentation describing their project. For most projects, this is the second time we were reviewing your information, so it would be very helpful if you could please give us a brief overview of your project to remind us what you're planning, and then clearly identify any changes that have been made since the last time we saw you. When the applicant is done presenting and any clarifications have been reviewed, we will open the public hearing and allow members of the community to speak about the applicant's proposal. After the commission has heard from all community members interested in speaking tonight, the public hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate. To our applicants, when your project name is called, please come to the microphone and start off by giving your name and address or name and address of any members of the applicant's team that is planning to speak for our public record. And to anyone from the community that will be speaking in regard to a project tonight, please also start off by stating your name and address for our records. For anyone unfamiliar with the format of a public hearing, we will be opening the microphone to solicit public comment about specific projects that are up for review. Public comments should be directed to the members of the Planning Commission and staff and not directed towards the applicant. It is not acceptable for any member of the public to enter into any form of discussion with the applicant directly during the meeting. The commission members will take note of any specific questions or comments that come up during the public comment portion of the meeting. And when there are no additional community members wishing to speak about the project, the public hearing portion of the meeting will be closed and the applicant will be given a chance to respond. The commission members will ask the applicant to comment on any questions that were brought up by the community if they are relevant to our review. It will again not be acceptable for any member of the public to attempt to enter into a dialogue with the applicant while they respond to questions or comments that arose during the public hearing. The time for us to hear from the public will be while the public hearing is open. Once it is closed, the public is here as an audience to the proceedings. Any member of the public who cannot abide by these rules will be asked to leave. All right, due to the large number of community members who appear to be here tonight to speak about a specific project, we will ask that you please limit your comments to 5 minutes. All right, our first applicant tonight is J&R Upholstery. The project address is 20 Emma Street and 5 Belknap Ave. This is a site plan review for the construction of a 720 square foot industrial building in the I-2 light and medium industrial district. Welcome back.
Yep, good evening, everyone. I am Jason Stupsky. I'm co-owner of J&R Upholstery Shop established on 20 Emma Street on the west side of Binghamton. We are looking to do an addition on our property and on 20 Emma Street. We are looking to put a building up as the size of 24 by 30 to expand our business. We are looking to do undercoating to bring into this area. So I'm too sure what else you guys need from me on this. Sorry, first time.
All right. No, that's a pretty good description of what you're planning to do. and we have the plans. So this, Tito, just a clarification, this is a final deliberation, not a public hearing, right?
Correct, yep. It's
Okay.
a permitted use. It doesn't require seeker, so it's eligible for a waiver of the public hearing. And they will be having a public hearing from the zoning board. So we recommended the waiver.
Okay. I guess the first question is, anybody opposed to waiving the public hearing for this project based on its size? All right, all right. And you probably want a motion for that, if we're gonna do that? Okay. All right. Pretty. All right. Okay, a motion by Chris to waive the public hearing requirement for the project. Seconded by Kelly, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, any other questions, comments about what they would like to do?
I
Yeah.
do have dumpster, Chris. Let you know.
All right. Well, seeing no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion that the requirements for site plan review have been met. All right, seconded by Kelly, all in favor? All right, that's 6 in favor, 0 opposed.
All right, thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
You're welcome. All right, our next public hearing tonight is for the applicant Addiction Center of Broome County. Project address is 15 Charles Street. This is a site plan review and special use permit to convert the basement of an existing mixed-use building to social services use / warming station in the I-1 Urban Business Park District.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Campbell with him and Howard Patel representing the applicant tonight. The executive director, I didn't think you'd blow through your agenda this fast, so I told her not to be here till 6. So I'm going to start. She's teaching a class up at the university. I'm going to get started without her. We have her right hand here. And if you just want to introduce yourself.
Janet Inglesby from the Owego.
That's okay. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to represent tonight. We met with you several months ago regarding the project. Nothing about the project has functionally changed, but we took the time and the opportunity to provide some additional information to you in response to many of your questions, and also in response to many of the questions raised by members of the public at that first meeting. Since it has been a little bit since we've met before, I'm just going to quickly refresh everyone's recollection. This is a project at 15 Charles Street, a building which ACBC, Addiction Center of Broome County, owns. The project is for a warming center, and for those of you who might not know what that is, since I didn't, it is just an area where when it becomes 32 degrees or below, it opens for people to come in, get out of the cold, sleep, have a light meal, and then leave in the morning. The property is located in an industrial park district. That is the brown color that you see here on the city zoning map. There aren't too many of them in the city of Binghamton. That is surrounded by a neighborhood commercial district, which is in the red. And that is pretty much every property fronting on Clinton Street in the immediate area. The Addiction Center of Broome County is a medically supervised outpatient clinic that deals with the care and management of various at-risk populations. The ACBC is turning 50 this year, It serves more than 1,000 individuals and has more than 100 employees. Again, the application is to locate a 40-bed warming unit in this facility. Obviously, it would only be open. Well, I say that, I shouldn't say that. It should only open in the winter because hopefully that was the only time we'll have 32 or below. The hours of operation are proposed at 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. We provided you a supplemental packet of information, which I know that you've all had an opportunity to read through. But we did provide a Appendix B, which is the daily schedule of events. Sorry, they blew through really fast. This is Carmela, if you just want to.
Hi, sorry, I'm Carmela Pirch, the Executive Director at the Addiction Center of Broome County, coming from class.
So I'm just going to keep going on here.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Can you get real close to the microphone? 'Cause It is hard.
It's so weird,
There it is.
but okay. So again, the facility will operate from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. In terms of security protocol, there's a metal detector at the facility, and clients will be wanded also. There's an opportunity for them to lock their belongings for the evening. They may not leave the facility. If they leave, they may leave. They may not re-enter if they leave. And again, keeping in mind that this is a code blue location, they're coming in from the cold, it's fairly unlikely that we would see people leaving. There also is a criminal background check that is done. Any people with various felony convictions would not be permitted to enter. In terms of sort of what does a night look like? It'd be coming in at 5, sort of getting registered, getting checked in, having a light meal, lights out around 10, 6 a.m. wake up, a light breakfast, 7 o'clock would be time for people to leave. ACBC plans to provide transportation to downtown, the library, DSS, or other appointments that the individual might have for the day. One of the reasons that we delayed coming back to you is because at about the time we submitted this application, ACBC was also involved in a comfort station, a new project on Chenango Street at the United Presbyterian Church, and that had just opened. We really wanted to take the opportunity, get some experience so that we weren't just giving you what we think will happen, but we actually had real world experience sort of with how that center operates. Now that center is not only open in the cold weather, but it is run very much the same as the cold blue warming station would be run. So we're pleased to report some information to you with respect to that process. In May, there were 284 people, and the way that the lingo is heads in beds. So 284 heads in beds during the month of May. That facility, will be this cold blue warming station, is staffed with 2 people per shift. There are 2 shifts per night, and a supervisor comes in and out during that period. In June, that facility had 402 heads in beds, and some additional services have developed from the experience at that facility, which are things like identification coordination with the sheriff's department. One of the problems a lot of people have in obtaining services is that they don't have identification. And so the peer-to-peer counseling that's available at the facility allows facilitation of identification. Also enrolling in healthcare coverage and anticipating perhaps the opportunity for telepractice healthcare, some sort of medical, at least consultation. I don't think that it's a surprise to anyone that there's an enormous need for these types of facilities in the area. I've certainly provided a lot of data to you all with respect to the increasing need for these facilities. We're happy to report that it's been a big success. The proposed location is located at 15 Charles, which is at the entry of the corner of Charles and Clinton Street. So I did some measuring because if you haven't been over there, it's an interesting location because it's very industrial. There's a power plant right across Charles Street from it. The property entrance again is right on the corner, and the location that the warming station will be, that the individual will be entering and exiting is right on the corner. So I did some measuring. To the north, the nearest house is 475 feet away. To the east, about 610 feet. From the west, about 611 feet. And across Clinton Street, there's nothing. It's a vacant lot. And just by way of comparison, a football field is 360 feet. So we're either 1.5 or at least a football field away at the closest location, and you know, almost 2 football fields away to any residential facilities at the farthest location. And I think that's important because this is not a building that's sort of nestled into a residential neighborhood. The residential neighborhood is far behind and off to the sides of it. And I also drove around that area a lot because I've not had an occasion to walk farther than the parking lot. There's no connection back there to any other major corridor. So if you walk, you know, north from this building from Clinton Street and back towards Charles, it doesn't connect you to, say, a street that might get you to downtown, or a street that might have a commercial bus or a bus stop for you to get somewhere. The bus routes are on Clinton Street, and the shortest route to downtown is Clinton Street. So just try to keep in mind that when it's freezing outside, it's unlikely that people are going to choose to travel in a way that really doesn't get them anywhere. They're going to be much more inclined to travel to services, to warmth, to food, to other services and appointments. So in terms of just feeding back into the neighborhood, which was a concern that neighbors have, and I certainly appreciate that, there doesn't seem to be a lot of reason to go back there. And in evaluating the site plan and special use permit criteria, I just again wanted to stress that nearly all the properties facing Clinton Street are zoned neighborhood commercial, a district which similarly allows social service uses in the same way and through the same process that this project is going through. In fact, at 114 Clinton Street, that project, and that was my project as well, it was actually constructed and utilized for social service use. And just to give you a visual of where that is, it's right across from the Boys and Girls Club. So it's certainly not an unknown to the neighborhood. In terms of the special permit criteria, one of them is that the project be designed, located, and operated to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. I just wanted to, with respect to that, highlight that it is a permitted use subject to site plan review. This is Clinton Street, which is a main thoroughfare, and that ACBC is an experienced agency in managing and maintaining and running this operation. We would submit to you respectfully that there is no injury substantial to the surrounding neighborhood. Again, the experience of the agency and their facility downtown does not support that claim. And also the agency's experience and partnerships with other mental health providers and the police department, the training of employees, all of those things make ACBC, a very, very good organization to run such a facility. There's no parking problem. There's plenty of parking. They actually own a lot that is all parking. There's no traffic burden, and the population is not a group of people that will be bringing lots of cars to the building. And in terms of just the environmental oversight of the project, it's an adaptive reuse of a large industrial building that otherwise, might be difficult to occupy. ACBC estimates that their total investment in the property will be approximately $20 million. They do have, or they, they would like to talk about their future plans for the building, but they're just so uncertain at this point as to be really hypothetical. They do know that they are going to consolidate their office employees at this location. That's a permitted use under the zoning regulations. But everything else that they plan to do there is dependent on funding opportunities, and when they might arise and what that might look like is just very unsure at this time. I think one thing that speaks to the comfort level of ACBC with this project is the fact that one of the things they'd like to do is provide an employee daycare in the building. So they're very comfortable having their own children be in a facility in which, you know, this kind of operation, this warming station might occur. Other possibilities are medical services, again, permitted uses under the zoning regulations. But anything else that they do obviously would have to come back to you for a similar approval process. In the packet, I provided you several letters of recommendation, and I'm not going to read them all. I promise. But I would like to read one and just summarize one, and that is from Sheriff Akshar. As you know, the Binghamton Police Department handles downtown Binghamton, and they are familiar with the facility that has been open since May. And that's in your packet as well. His letter indicates a concern of his with respect to individuals being released from correctional facilities right out into the street. So if someone gets released and it's cold outside, they're outside. That's a problem that he's experiencing. I would also just like to point out one paragraph. He says, currently the existing comfort center accommodates approximately 25 guests each evening. They provided 834 nights of safe, crime-free, abuse-free sleep for those in need. 15 guests received sheriff's IDs, health insurance, and 5 individuals at the center are now employed, and that's just the beginning. We expect to have a very similar experience at the warming station, which again is not open all the time, but in the winter months. And I just wanted to make sure that you received a few additional letters that we received after we submitted the packet. I believe the Congresswoman Lepardo, excuse me, that's probably a little too close. Mr. Wexler, and I believe there was also one from Senator Webb. But you have the list of people. We have sheriffs, we have assemblywomen, we have senators, we have city council members, we have social services commissioners, the executive director of the YWCA, the executive director of Outreach Ministries, various, the United Way, Opportunities from Broome, the Volunteers of America. I think that it's just undisputed that this type of facility is necessary. And I was trying to think about what the best endorsement for ACBC could be. And for me, and I don't know about everyone here, but the best endorsement I could give them is that I didn't know about them. And I've lived here for my entire life. I had no idea they existed. I didn't know what they did. And I think that the fact that they have sort of operated in such a positive way for 50 years with very little hoopla, and the number of people that they have assisted is just amazing. They're quiet, they're effective. The number of individuals that they serve just speaks to the organization's commitment, and they are uniquely qualified to provide these life-saving services to our most vulnerable community members. We respectfully request that you allow them to do so through this warming station. And I'll turn the net mic over to Carmela just to see if she...
I don't really have anything to add, just happy to answer any questions and hopefully we'll be able to move forward and kind of know what's next for us with this project. One of the letters, I will say this, you know, I had heard that a woman froze to death on Court Street last winter, but Councilwoman Friedman referenced the woman by name. Her name was Angela Cade. And I didn't know that until I got this letter yesterday, but that really struck a chord with me that, you know, like an actual human being, a woman froze to death last year. So we're hoping to not have circumstances like this. And this is a voluntary service. So we're not, you know, no one's directed to come to us. It's just for people that really just need to be out of the cold for the night.
All right. One, just right off the bat, one important question. So of the building, what percentage of what we are looking at tonight is this warming station? This is a very small, right? All right, so 2,000 square feet out of 63,000 square feet. So what we are looking at and reviewing tonight is a small warming station in an enormous building.
Correct.
And like you said, if you come back with future plans, you will be back here and we will be having public hearings for that. Whatever you decide to do for other stuff, we'll be in the same position. But tonight, everybody on this board is only looking at a 2,000 square foot warming station. All right. All right. Any questions or comments before we open the public hearing? Chris?
Yeah, question for the applicant. During your statement, did I hear correctly that there's going to be a background check to deny entry to felons? Did I hear that correctly?
So we will not take anyone that has a charge of a sex offense or an arson conviction. And we do have access, and we're actually the only shelter in the area that has access to the New York State Unified Court System. So we have been doing our due diligence with anyone entering the United Presbyterian Comfort Station, and only 11% of individuals have had any criminal history whatsoever. So the restrictions, we would not allow a sex offense conviction or an arson conviction. Or of course, if someone had an active warrant, we couldn't take someone with a warrant.
As we know, many people come in without identification. So how do you approach that scenario?
So what we have been doing, and the supervisor of our comfort center made arrangements with the sheriff for us to bring people in the morning. We'll take about 4 people at a time to go up to the Broome County Jail, get their fingerprints, get their ID, and then we have that for them.
I'm more mean on the background check for them to be there.
How do we do that?
Yeah, if they don't have identification coming in.
Okay, so we're going with the name, and you know, like if they don't have identification, they're kind of right in front of us, so we can tell who it is.
Okay.
This is more of a procedural question, but I think that the note, this follows Steve's email from yesterday, and letters were sent to the group of people that live, Tito, you said 200 feet from the building. And I just took a rough survey. There's 73 people in the crowd. Is about how many letters went out? Any idea roughly?
And I can look that up.
Just roughly.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious because it seems like we have a very large crowd tonight on this, because I know the Kilmer Roof probably doesn't have many people here.
Yep.
Just curious. If everyone got a letter, get up, come here. That'd be great.
Just a couple of questions, just to make sure I understand more on the background check, because I don't know that if that issue could come up during either of the prior appearances you had in front of us. I just want to make sure I understand. So someone comes to you whom you don't already know of, you're not working with this individual, they have an ID, you're able to search the database on the fly to make the decision to let them in or not?
Yes, so we can pull up the applicant or the guest's criminal history using the Unified Court System database.
And you said if they were convicted of sex offense or arson, they're not permitted,
Yes.
but felony assault is okay? I mean, how was it determined that you kind of
The
pick and
only
choose?
rule outs are the sex offense and the arson status. And so far, of all the individuals that have come since April 27th, only 11% had any criminal background. Largely who's coming are people with physical disabilities, some mental health disabilities. If you went to any restaurant right now and ran a criminal background check, it would be way more than 11%.
And that's a decision that your organization made to delineate, not, is that a best practice? I'm just trying to understand how you arrive at that.
It's pretty standard. It is. Mhm.
I think also one of the things that you'll see in your packet, we've tried to provide you lists of a similar warming station. There's tons of, I mean, they're certainly not a new invention. Other communities, I think we have a letter in there from a facility towards the east of us. They're not new. We certainly borrowed practice and procedure from these existing locations. They visited the locations. And that's really based on their experience with the facility on Chenango Street and what we've seen happen over the last few months.
If the commission does not approve this site plan, does that reduce the level of appeal this particularly property has to your organization to say, well, we're just gonna go look at something else altogether, or the other plan's still on the table for you?
The other plans are still on the table. They own the property, so you know, they're invested in the property. Perhaps they would seek another location, but a lot of the locations would be fronting on Clinton Street in the neighborhood.
That was my question. Are there any other secondary locations if there were not this one? Okay.
No, I mean, the thing you have to look at is where it's permitted. And it's permitted, social services are permitted with this same process in not only the brown area, the business park, but also in all the red area that fronts on Clinton Street. It would only make sense for them to do it close to where their operation is located.
All right. Any other questions, comments before we open the public hearing? All right, so this is a holdover public hearing. We never closed it from the first time you guys were here because we knew you probably were coming back with additional information. So this is a continuation of the previous public hearing. All right, so just a reminder that all your comments are aimed towards us. The applicant is going to go sit in the crowd and listen. Please don't attempt to enter into a dialogue with them. And again, we're going to limit comments to 5 minutes. All right, so anybody who would like to speak about the project, please come to the microphone and we'll get everybody in. So I guess just queue up to the side if you're waiting in line to go next. And please state your name and address for our records. And also talk right into the microphone because it is hard to hear.
My name's Rebecca Rathmel. I live at 42 Baldwin Street in Binghamton. And I've worked within the local homeless services sector in the city for the last 15 years. I was a member of former Mayor David's Blue Ribbon Commission to End Veteran Homelessness in 2014. I led Executive Garner's Safe Housing Task Force by appointment in 2017 to 2018. And have advocated as well as engaged with every project level when it comes to homeless assistance services locally, primarily street outreach, specifically with the unhoused individuals who will need to access this facility. I most often come to these meetings with data, numbers representing what many of us have termed a housing crisis within the city for the last decade. Just a few weeks ago in this chamber, I again shared that we've seen increases of over 70% among families experiencing homelessness within the city. 20% if we look at increases among individuals. Last year, over 2,300 individuals had to access emergency shelter within Binghamton and Broome County because they had no other housing option. That includes over 430 families with children. This community has added over 100 shelter beds since 2020 to try to meet the need of our increasing homeless population. The Department of Social Services has increased contracts with local motels and hotels every single year to try to reserve additional rooms, and we still run out almost every week. Despite those additional resources, we have an estimate officially of around 70 unhoused individuals every single night sleeping on their streets, our streets. But street outreach teams would increase that estimate to 75, closer to 100 at times. You heard earlier about Angela Cade a few winters ago, who froze to death on Court Street because she was unable to access shelter. Hers is not the only name that we could share. Street outreach teams just this last winter worked closely with an unhoused man who had to have a leg amputation due to frostbite because of the extent to which he had been exposed to the severe elements around Christmas. Homelessness is always a life and death situation, always. But during the winter, even more so. Much of the opposition to this project is predicated on what experts within the field know to be a false association between homelessness and increases in crime. You have that report in your packet. It's been debunked over and over again. And Carmela represented that well in her 11% with criminal charges comment. Our data represents that well over 60% of individuals who are accessing emergency shelter locally report having a physical disability or a behavioral health disability, either or both, that limit or inhibit their capacity to work and earn gainful income. More than anything else, homelessness is a housing issue. It's not a character defect. It does not equal personal deficit, and it is not a result of poor lifestyle choices. All of that is unrefutable. City Council in this very chamber for the last decade and a half has refused to address the deficits in affordable housing that exist within the city. And it's because of those deficits that shelters are having to expand. Because of those deficits, DSS is having to add contracts. And because of those deficits, ACBC is proposing to do what will be literal life-saving work in putting a roof over humans' heads. The last statement I'll say is that this project will not bring unhoused individuals to Clinton Street or to that area. They're already here. And unless we provide an option and support for them, we're leaving them to die on our streets.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Mr. Cachadorian. Some of our properties border this building. I speak for my family since my brother Henry passed away. And I've had several problems myself. I just want to address this issue. First of all, the parking issue hasn't been brought up. They claim they have plenty of parking. They do not. All right. She was here. Camilla was here and she said that there would be plenty of parking. They needed 150 more employees. Now, that came out of her own mouth. There is not that many parking spaces in that park. Matter of fact, I can tell you now, they're parking 8 to 10 feet into my property right at this time as I speak to you. The property was surveyed. I know where the stake is, and their pavement goes onto my property, and they're parking 45 cars. No, I take that back. 17 parking spaces are parked on my property. Those cars during the day. That's on the north end of the property. Now, there are other issues I have to talk about. One, the person that was breaking into vehicles that I have on my property was broken into my truck when I was coming back from the hospital when I was taking care of my brother Henry. I caught him in my truck. I pulled in. It was about 5:30 in the morning, starting to be daylight out. This is in May. This gentleman immediately called out my name, said he found the truck that way, and he was putting everything back as he was stuffing his pockets. That is the same person that broke other windows on the lot. And not only did he break in to my vehicles, just a week or two later, ACBC's vehicles were broke into. Their own vehicles parking on the IDA's property that is leased by Mark Hebner that they park on, and their personal vehicles because they don't have enough parking on their own site. And she claimed another 100, 150 more employees. There is not parking there at all. Not enough. And there's other issues. And that person was one of the people that I used to take down to ACBC at the Colonial Building when I had the transportation company. And no wonder he called me out by name and then ran as soon as I caught him in my truck that I had to replace the driver's side window in after he rifled through the truck. He rifled through other vehicles on the property after he broke more windows, as he did ACBC's vehicles parked further north in the fence line that they use from the IDA. All right. I don't want to hear that this is not going to draw undesirables. That's a pie in the sky, and I don't want to even hear that discussion at all. None. They're down in our first ward now. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. And I don't believe this started with Como when he released a lot of them from up at the developmental center and put them in the city of Binghamton to walk the streets. That building up on Glenwood Road is not occupied at full capacity. Why aren't they using that building? Since they're funded by the state as a nonprofit, I believe it's a 501c. I don't feel that building is conducive for what they want to do there. You know, they're saying it's a warming this, that, warming that, you know. It's a residential area, predominantly residential business area. And I feel very strongly against this project. I'll be very upset about it because it borders my property. As a matter of fact, the gate right next to my property, somebody was there with some kind of a saw, battery type operated saw, since there's no power there. And they cut the locks going into the gate bordering my property and theirs to access either my property or their property. I'm sure it was their property, and they just cleaned out the vegetation, and greenery in that alleyway. It was bad. It was really bad. It grows up like real fast in 3 or 4 years. And recently the police told me, I was talking to the detective about the break-ins in the cars, and he said they were trying to access their cameras that are on their building. When the cameras, I believe they're not used, or they're dummies. I don't know what the story is, but they're having a hard time trying to get that video. And they're claiming, there's rumors claiming they're going to put a lot more cameras up. Now that may be a good thing, as long as they're workable.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for your comments.
Yep.
How you doing today? My name is Christopher Scott. And the reason why I'm here today is because in 2017, I came home from federal prison. And when I came home, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to commit crime and I knew I needed help. So in that regard, I was sent to ACBC by my federal parole officer. While at ACBC, I was able to just get these resources that were unbeknownst to me as a former criminal, someone who was trying to change my life. So in the process of going in there, I ended up getting an opportunity to work there, and I've been there since 2017. And the reason why I want to tell you this story is because out of the 11% of the people who had criminal histories, one of them could have been someone like me, right? Coming home with nothing, nowhere to go. And I could have easily said, you know what, the hell with this. I'm going to just go and do crime again. But I had an agency that didn't judge me, didn't care about stigma, and offered me an opportunity. And here I am sitting in front of you guys. Another thing I want to say is, what is going on in the world today? What is wrong with us? Why are we even here when we have people freezing outside and we don't want to have a place for them to go because we want people to go to a bar and they want somewhere to have hardware stores and stuff? This is insane that we have to be here and fight for people to be warm and safe. Everybody here has an opportunity to go home and sleep and not worry about it. Some people don't. And the fact that we're here fighting for this is insane. I just don't understand it. And I understand people have their opinions in terms of what this warming station will bring. Well, I'll tell you what it will bring. It'll bring safety. It'll bring safety to the community that's opposed to it because, like the gentleman just spoke, someone broke into his car. Well, we don't have a warming station there now. We don't have clients there. So whoever broke into his car, maybe if we had a warming station, they wouldn't have been out at 5:30 in the morning.
Thank you. Hello.
I live in Owego. I lived in Binghamton for 15 years. And wow, I never realized about homelessness or none of that. I don't know all the statistics or all that. I'm just a janitor at night. And I deal with so much homelessness. You know, I could tell you a story, but I want to tell you what I experienced. I worked one night till 3 in the morning. I don't even think I told my supervisor or Carmela about it. But I went to throw out the trash and I'm hearing noise. I mean, it was freezing. I just wanted to throw the trash and go home. You know, it was freezing. I'm hearing this rumble. I thought it was an animal. So I slide the door to the dumpster open and all the garbage was like ripped open and I'm seeing it move. When I opened the top of the dumpster, a husband and wife was sleeping under the trash in the cold. You know, and I asked the guy, where's your clothes at? He said he gave it to his wife to stay warm. So I gave him my jacket. You know, I gave him my jacket. And believe it or not, I stayed there talking with the guy. He's has his mind. He's not mental. He wasn't on drugs. He was just homeless. Him and his wife were literally just homeless. I asked him, you know what? I got a couple of bucks. Would you like to go get something to eat? And he said, no, we ate what we found in the trash. We're full. And he said, we appreciate it. We're sorry for any inconvenience. You know, and I felt so bad about that. You know, and I told the guy, you know, that we didn't have a warming center, none of that. He just didn't have no place to go with his wife. Had no money, no job, I think he told me that he lost his house through a fire. But they had no family, no place to go, but they were in our dumpster just to keep warm. And it was cold, you know. But that's my experience. And you know what? I hope this warming center, I think it really will help a lot of people because I think we're full right now, you know. And it's sad that we don't take pedophiles and arsonists. And I understand we got rules because of women's safety and other people's safety. But I hope they come for a place for those people too, because we are here to help people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. No, please stop. We're going to ask you to leave. We're going to ask you to leave. We will ask you to leave. Do you need us to ask you to leave? Do you need to leave? That's where it's headed next. If you'd like to be quiet and listen to everybody, that's great. If not, we'll ask you to leave. Thank you. All right,
Okay.
next up.
All right.
Thank you.
So today I sit before you as a living testament to the transformative power of hope and compassion and community support. So my name is Becca Moore, and I wanted to share with you the journey that began in a really dark place and found its way to the light. A journey that took me from the depths of homelessness, the depths of drug addiction, the depths of alcoholism, to becoming the director of health homes at the Addiction Center of Broome County, an agency that since I started working there has been a beacon of hope. Yes, I work at the Addiction Center of Broome County, but I don't speak on, I don't speak to this because of my bias for the Addiction Center of Broome County. It's because I believe in what we do at the Addiction Center of Broome County. Not too long ago, like I said, I was just like many of the individuals that we serve today, whether it was 10 years ago, 13 years ago, 2 years ago, it feels just like yesterday that I was one of these individuals. I was homeless. I was caught in the grip of addiction, and I had no idea at nighttime where I would stay. And at that time, Broome County didn't really have anything after hours for me to go stay. And so I was left to fend for myself. I was left to figure out where to stay that night, if I could find a place to stay. In 2010, something sparked within me, and I was able to find my way out of a darkness and find my way into recovery. During early recovery, in the beginning of my career, ACBC emerged as a guiding light in my life. The agency's dedication to giving back to the community was something that was completely a part of like who I wanted to be in my mission to give back to the community that I had taken from so much, and wanted to provide a helping hand to the most vulnerable. It just resonated with me so deeply. So 9 years ago, I did join ACBC's team. I joined as a counselor at first. And when I first joined, it was 26 people total staff that were working there between clinic, administrative, and supervisory staff. And together, we've worked tirelessly with an amazing executive director to build the program into what it is now, over 100 staff with several different departments. And I, again, like I said, run the health home department. I watch tirelessly every day as the health home care managers go out and try to find people housing at the end of the day on a Friday at 3:45 when people come in and it's winter and it's cold. And we have nowhere to put these people because there is nothing available, because housing is scarce and it's too expensive for people to find any place to go. And so as people, as human beings, not just employees of the Addiction Center of Broome County, but as people who are actually invested in this community and wanting to see it better, and not just the community, but the people who are invested in people who are invested in human beings and want to see good for human beings and giving back to other people. We will make sure that that person has a roof over their head for that night, for that weekend, for whatever it takes. One of the most critical initiatives is the Up Comfort Center that is at 42 Chenango Street. It's a haven for those who struggle to find a roof over their heads. It's a haven that I wish I could have had back when I was homeless on the street, looking for something, looking for a safe place to go, looking for the next meal. It embraces individuals who are burdened by the high cost of living, people with children. There are people who are out there with children who just have no place to go, because even though, yes, I mean, the local Department of Social Services does the best that they can with everything and the high cost of living today, it just keeps rising and it just cannot meet the needs. The Up Comfort Center symbolizes hope, and its existence speaks volumes about the compassion and the heart of our community and what ACBC stands for. We empower those that are in need, proving that every individual deserves, I deserved a chance to rebuild my life. They deserve a chance to rebuild their lives. ACBC just wants to give these people a chance to rebuild their lives. I'm so grateful that people had the faith and took faith in me, to believe in me, to help rebuild myself. It serves as a reminder that when we come together as a community with empathy and understanding, that we can create an unbreakable bond that supports and empowers everyone that's involved. As we continue this journey forward, let's remember our humanity and the power we possess to make a difference in the person's lives in the community. I truly extend my deepest gratitude to ACBC, whether I work there or not, to the staff, to the volunteers and supporters who have been in the heart and soul of this agency's mission. Together as a community, we have turned despair into hope and changed the lives in profound ways. Please, I implore you to believe in this as we do. Please allow us to house more of the homeless. The brutal nights of the winter are coming. They are right around the corner. It is August. I am wearing a long sleeve dress. It is already cold.
Thank you.
I like the heat, but
Thank you.
yes.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Judy Opont, and I am the Outreach Engagement Services Program Manager at the Addiction Center of Broome County. Can everyone hear me? Okay. No?
Yep.
What I would like to say is that my staff of peers, they go out into the community. And for me, when they go and it's winter time and they have to say to another human being, I don't have anywhere to take you. The hotels are filled and it's late at night and it's going to be cold also. The only place I can take you is the sheriff's office. So perhaps you can sleep maybe on a cot or on a bed. It's very hard. And I know that my staff, when they come back to the office, after having to deal with another person who has to sleep out into the street or maybe find a friend to go to sleep, it's very hard because they have to go home to their families and they know what they have to come back the next day and face. For us having a warming center, it would be a great thing to have, because not to be biased against anyone in here or myself or anyone behind me, but pretty much we leave at the end of the day and we don't have to worry about homelessness because we all have jobs. I have student loans. I went to college and I got a master's degree in social work. And trust me, my student loans are a lot more than what my house cost. And at any time, if I had to pay back those student loans and I don't have a job, they could take my house probably, and I could become homeless. It can happen to anyone. I'm asking that I did not go to college in order to have a great salary, because I work for a nonprofit and I come in every day and I give my best to staff and to homeless people who come to our office. They come for clothes, they come for food, they come for someone to talk to them. They come for us to transport them to their medical appointments. They come to us so that we can transport them to their families, out of state sometimes, out of the county, because they have no transportation of their own and they still need to see their children. We here at ACBC, we don't get paid a lot, but we have a really huge heart that we open it up and we serve the community. In the wintertime, our heart hurts a lot and it bleeds, because when the hotels are filled and people don't have somewhere to go to, we have to drop them off, like we said, at the sheriff's office and leave them there and then come back and hope that they're okay. So I am literally begging that you please approve this warming shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else?
Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Butchko Dunster, and I live at 14 Keeler Ave in Binghamton. And I think what I'd like to say is that one of the reasons that we're all here is because a lot of us in this room are scared. We're putting the cart before the horse. We have to have some faith that only 3 to 5% of those that have a mental illness or a physical illness have committed crimes. This isn't just about a place to sleep. This is about our community. I grew up here. My grandfather was here. He was a police officer. My parents are still here. My sister's still here. My brother's still here. And I've seen this community change, and it's always been scary. Change is scary. But why are we assuming that if people sleep overnight at Charles Street, that something's going to happen? I mean, part of this is just faith. We don't have any statistics to prove that it's not, but it may not. So I think what you should all think about in your decision making is, how scared are you and why are you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Barb Donnelly. I live on Dorman Road, Binghamton, New York. And I'm the director of Outreach Ministry Showers of Hope from St. Pat's, St. Thomas Churches, and we're located on 16 St. Cyril Ave, right behind St. Cyril's Church on Clinton Street. In our service, we service the less fortunate in our area by offering groceries, bag lunches, clothing, and what other services we can offer or direct them to. 99% of the time, I depend on ACBC, which I never realized how valuable they were to our area till last September. They should be embraced anywhere they go. They have helped me with so much. I can't even, housing, mental issues. I had a young girl whose water broke at our line. CPS would not help me because there was no baby yet. ACBC was there. You call their number and they will give it to you gladly. You get a real person. You don't push one, you don't push two, you get a real person. And they're usually within an hour to a half an hour of being there to help you immediately. June and July of this past month and the month before, we serviced 10,000 individuals. A little bit over this month, 2,300 to 2,400 families each month come to 16 St. Cyril Ave. Inflation, homelessness due to lack of affordable housing, poverty and unemployment has caused all this, and life events which we can't prevent have caused this to happen. The last survey done in the United States said that 59% of Americans, you and me included, are one paycheck away from being homeless. A medical issue, a bad financial decision, we're all there. It doesn't take much to get there. And I think actually last year, I have on my notes about the lady who froze to death. That is mind-boggling to me. If I had my dog tied to a tree, and believe me, I should be arrested, I would be arrested. But we're allowing families to live in vans. I have a family right now that came today. They rented a U-Haul because it's $19.99 a day rather than a hotel for $70. And they're working, so they can't afford the hotel. So they're living in a U-Haul. We had 57 homeless today out of our 463 people. Men, women, and 2 families showed up today. It's heart-wrenching to see children with nowhere to go and no foreseeable housing in sight. They will probably be homeless when school starts, and they probably won't go to school. So it's a snowball effect at every level. But ACBC has helped our organization in so many ways. The director is unbelievable. She will be there in a minute. They help with mental issues, medical. And as I said, you get a real person and they will contact you or lead you in the right way. The comfort station that's running right now, I was very involved in it in the beginning because when I heard the lady froze, I went to Oneonta. They have a warming station. Tanya, another lady, and I went up to look at it. We brought the idea to Broome County. Many organizations looked at it, but most of them knew they couldn't do it. With the amount of security, professionalism, they couldn't do it. Their plates overloaded, but Carmela stepped up, and that's when I really realized what their group does. I don't even know what to say to her other than Broome County should just embrace everything they offer. They will help you in every way. ACB does to our area, which I wish other people would open their eyes and see what's going on. I don't think a lot of us realize until you're involved in it, how sad it is to see people. And we're seeing a lot of seniors right now who are one day away from being homeless. They come to our line every day in their 80s, 80, 83 years old, and they don't want to be there, but they can't afford to live without it. Very, very sad. So now at St. Cyril's, without the warming station being available, or if it's overcrowded, they're sleeping in our steps, in our gazebo, and the elevator outside the hall. Homelessness is nationwide. It's not going to go away. It's like the elephant in the room, and we have to deal with it as best as we can. And I know for fact the warming station will be run very safe, very secure. The comfort station's being run like that. And when people get a meal and they can sleep, what a difference. The first night at the comfort station, I met a gentleman there, and he has been working 5 years as a bus monitor. His apartment, the landlord raised the rent, renting to students. He's been 10 months without an apartment, but he's still working. And he was so grateful to get 8 hours worth of sleep rather than 2.5 hours of basically porch surfing or sleeping on the river and going to work. He said he felt like a whole new person. There was a young girl there at 19, and she said it was the first night her body wasn't violated in like 6 months by sleeping inside. So I really hope and pray that you consider the warming station. It is much needed. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Nebus. I'm the clinic supervisor over at ACBC. I appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about this project and about what I'm seeing on the ground level with the clients that we serve. If you were to ask me what the single most pressing issue is for our clients, I wouldn't even have to take 10 seconds to think about it. I would tell you it's housing. Housing every day. It's housing. The lack of affordable housing in the area is keeping people trapped in cycles of poverty and homelessness. I'd like you to consider how difficult it would be to tackle the task of changing something, anything about your life. A big thing, right? Maybe I'm trying to get custody of my kids back. Maybe I'm trying to find work. When all I'm thinking about is where's my next meal coming from? And am I going to have a roof over my head tonight? How do I have the mental energy for that? They don't. That might be an unpleasant hypothetical for us here, but that's the lived reality of the clients that myself and my staff are working with every day. When we provide people with what they need, when we treat them with dignity and respect, they're able to do the work of building themselves back up. And I know I only have 5 minutes. I could certainly sit here and point to all of the research that suggests that when we help people meet their material needs, their material conditions, that they do better. But I also know this because I've seen it happen with my own eyes. Between the excellent counseling services that we're offering and the comprehensive support from our peers and our health home, clients are reporting and showing that they're better able to meet their goals. They're getting off the street, they're finding work, they're eating. What excites me about this project is that it's not just a place to stay for a night, it's a foot in the door for that kind of support. They'll meet with supportive staff at the shelter who can help connect them to the right supports so they can start to make those difficult changes with a good night's sleep and food in their stomach. I'm proud of the work that we do, and I hope that we can count on the support of this council. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Iverson. I live at 34 Mile Street, Binghamton, New York. I come here threefold. One, as a person, as a resident in the first ward. Two, as a person that has faced homelessness and addiction in her past and have over 10 years of continuous sobriety. And three, as an employee of ACBC. I'm grateful to have the employment that I have with the agency that I work for. We do great work. You've heard some of that. I just want to touch on some of the things that I've heard, right? So when we talk about community, we talk about like the fear, what's going to happen. I live in the first ward. My children come there. I have grandchildren that play in my yard. I sit on my front porch at night and I see homelessness. I see people walking the streets, right? And so and I'm a peer advocate right now. So I do outreach with the homeless in Tompkins County and Tioga County. Don't necessarily work right here in Binghamton, although, I mean, I'm here as well. So I'm able to see to and from work going to St. Charles Street to work in the mornings, and I see people that are sleeping, on the sidewalks, walking down the street. So we engage with those people. I also know that there's people that are homeless living in the lot right behind our building at St. Charles. So we've tried to offer, our services there. I do believe that gentleman owns the property. So and the other thing I want to talk about is I had the opportunity to start working in the Comfort Center. And to my surprise, I had to check my own biases, because working with homelessness population in Ithaca, let's say, right? I'm working with a lot of substance use disorder. So when I went in to work at the Comfort Station, I thought that I would be encountering most of the clients that I would see at ACBC. And to my surprise, that was not the case. As I got to know the people that were utilizing the Comfort Station at 34 Chenango Street, what I found out is there were people that were working. There were people that couldn't afford the housing. There were people that had severe disabilities, physical disabilities and mental health disabilities, that weren't capable of doing the things like making phone calls or getting to DSS on their own. And so when Carmela had brought up that only 11% of those people had criminal backgrounds, that statistic is factual. So, I have to look at like my position, and I know that I work for an agency that not only cares about the individuals that they work for, but we care about the community as a whole. We offer services that go far beyond anything that I've ever encountered. So I know I'm just going to take a drink. Sorry about that. I know that when I was getting clean 10 years ago, and I was homeless, sleeping underneath the Tompkins Street Bridge, I had nowhere to go. I know that I had been sanctioned from DSS and there was nothing I could do. So I had to reach out, and I had to I was hopeless and in despair, and I ended up going to treatment. And even from there, it was like, what was I going to do? And at that time, thank God we had Fairview, because if we didn't have Fairview, the halfway house, I don't know where I would have been. But it gave me an opportunity. So I think that the warming station is going to give us an opportunity to provide the services that are lacking in the community, so that people, and here's the other thing, all of the businesses that are around that area are now going to have the resource to be able, if somebody's sitting on the front stoop, pick up the phone, call us, we'll come. So like without that, what are you going to do? All right. Well, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Dakota Kimishek. I live at 32 Munsell Street. I'm not a employee of ACBC, but I am in their program. Today, I got over 12 months clean because of them. This time last year, I was homeless. I was living by the Chenango Creek. I was sleeping homeless for months because Broome County DSS couldn't house me. Why? Because I had a dog. I wasn't giving up my dog. I just lost my father. That's the only other thing I had was my dog. I wasn't giving her up. So I lived by the Chenango Creek in Endicott for over 3-4 months last year in the fucking winter, when it was starting to snow and everything, freezing my balls off. I could have died out there. Today, I got 12 months clean, but it's because of ACBC why I got that clean time right now. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. They've helped me through and through for my mental health, my stability, everything. Now I got an apartment. I've had an apartment for about 4 months. I'm standing on my 2 feet and I'm doing good, but I'm only doing good because ACBC was there to fucking help me by my side. When DSS wouldn't help me, when nobody else would help me, ACBC was there. I'm one of the people that need this program. I needed the program, but they weren't there for me. So if you guys are really going to turn this down, you all some fucked up people.
All right. Anybody else?
All right, my name's Jacques Cosme. I live on Hazel Street in Binghamton, First Ward. I wasn't going to talk because I hate talking in front of people. But the gentleman who started this off really bothered me. Charles Street is not my backyard like his, but functionally my backyard. I drive past it every day. But the reality of the situation is homeless people are in the community right now, regardless of if this warming center happens or not. I run a business in Binghamton in the first ward. I'm in contact with landlords all the time because of my business. The number of houses that get broken into is astounding. And I'm sure some of those are homeless people who, when your option is freeze to death or commit a crime, I know what I'm picking 10 times out of 10. You know, I'm not going to sit in the street and freeze to death. When I know there's a house that's abandoned, I can smash a window and at least get out of the weather. I've been in the first ward for about 15 years, own my home. And there was a winter where my garage got broken into. And I looked inside and it looked like someone built themselves a nest. And you know what I did? I forgot I saw it. Come summertime, I fixed. Thanks, but I'm good. Come summertime, I fixed my door, put a new lock on. Hadn't had that problem since. But anyone who opposes this, I would challenge you. How's a homeless person in your house? The problem's there. The problem is there. You can either fix it yourself or you can let a company that knows what they're doing fix it. So that's my 2 cents as someone who's been here for 15 years and runs a business in the area.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Angela Cade, a member of the Binghamton community, passed away in December of 2021. She had housing and healthcare insecurities. When considering the potential community impact of a code blue warming center, several factors must be considered. A warming center can help reduce the risk of cold-related injuries, illnesses, and even death to vulnerable populations. By providing a safe haven during extreme weather, warming centers will reduce the burden on emergency services like hospitals and law enforcement. The presence of a warming center can influence how we as a community perceive and respond to homelessness. That's exactly why we're here today. Every person in our community is important. It's my hope that we can find some common ground to move forward and foster greater empathy and understanding for each other. The proposed ACBC Code Blue Warming Center will be fully integrated into the existing network of social services for the homeless population. The coordination will help ensure that individuals who use the center are connected to resources such as housing assistance, healthcare services, mental health, substance use treatment, and even employment services through our robust Broome County Career Center. I'd like to introduce myself at this time. My name is Jeff Pryor. I'm a resident of Binghamton. I live at 6 Linden Street. I'm also a small business owner with an S Corporation. I moved to Broome County in January of 2006 after my release from incarceration from an Indiana state prison. I graduated from Binghamton University in May of 2010 with my master's in social work. At graduation, I accepted a position with the Southern Tier AIDS program to build and design Broome County's first prison reentry program. In 2018, I wrote a grant, and we now are funding the first Broome County jail reentry program. I've been the director of reentry services for Broome County for 13 years. I left that position on March 3rd of this year to work for ACBC to design and implement the first UP Comfort Center in Broome County. We have served 136 unique individuals at the UP Comfort Center since we opened on April 27th. 48% have identified substance use disorders, 52% have some sort of mental health diagnosis, and only 11% are formerly incarcerated. My staff have successfully assisted 4 guests into their own apartments. 15 have received either a New York State ID or a sheriff's ID. 10 now have health insurance, reducing the tax burden that you and I pay into every year because now they are paying into the tax services. 10 individuals have been engaged in mental health services And the most exciting thing I can say is 6 people are now fully employed at companies supporting Broome County's tax base. Yet they're still homeless because they don't have enough money to get an apartment or find an apartment to meet their needs. You've heard over and over about what the Code Blue Warming Center is, so I'm not going to go into that, but I want to cover just a couple important points. Code Blue Warming Centers cannot end homelessness. They simply provide immediate relief during severe weather. Among the things that makes ACBC unique is their staff. ACBC staff working inside the center are all New York State credentialed recovery peer advocates. What you may not realize is peer recovery advocates are individuals who have personal lived experience with substance use disorders, mental health challenges, homelessness, and behavioral health conditions. The credentialing comes from the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, and credentialed staff of over 500 hours working in the field. The new Comfort Center is going to be open at 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Some of this you've heard, and I didn't realize so much would come out. We will take after-hour discharges from hospitals, referred from DSS after hours, and those dropped off by the police at any time. Guests leave the morning the same manner that they arrived at 7 a.m. Food is provided for guests upon arrival, and the lights go out at 10 p.m. Guests will be admitted until all 40 cots are filled. Once the cots are filled, our staff will work with the local police department to find after-hours housing through the after-hours social services department. This is a temporary center. It's only open on Code Blue evenings. There were 122 mornings last year that were identified as Code Blue. That was the 5th largest increase since 1989. We work with agencies such as Family Enrichment Network, Catholic Charities, Community Options, Mental Health Association for the Southern Tier AIDS Program, Housing Opportunities for Southern Tier, Greater Opportunities for Broome. In fact, we have 42 established partnerships of community agencies that we all work with on a daily basis. We have 20 vehicles. Rides can be arranged to these agencies as well as Voices Recovery, primary care doctor appointment, and community centers that are already established in our community. Our Code Blue Center will provide all these services to our guests. In contrast, when DSS places a homeless person with severe and persistent mental illness, thank you, they have to fend for themselves and there's no support in place. Adam Kipp, a local business owner, made a very important point at the last meeting, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing, this is not a homeless shelter. It's for someone who just has to go and stay in a basement overnight. And he said, that's not right. It doesn't sit with him. It doesn't sit with me either, sit well with me either.
Jeff,
Yes.
may
May I wrap up?
Are you almost done?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. My final points that you should hear is every person entering the center undergoes a complete background check. I know we mentioned that earlier. We go by their name and their date of birth. And if the name and date of birth don't match, it won't pull up a background. I'm one of the individuals that does that for every person entering. 11%. And we've had no violent felony individuals stay with us since we opened our center. We have handheld wands. Everyone goes through this metal detector, the same metal detectors that are in prisons and airports today. Where do they go if they don't come here? They're
All right.
outside. St. Cyril's served 10,000 people in June and 10,062 in July. They're already here. All we want to do is house 40 individuals from dying. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
John Burdick. I own 99 Clinton Street. And as a planning board, if you want to see the city decay even more, then you should pander more to crime, poverty, drug addiction, mental illness, driveway business, and then your solution will be all solved. Just one more building off the tax rolls to pass on to us taxpayers. I think that says it all. I run a business. I'm a very compassionate person. I've hired amputees, crackheads, drunks. I've worked with these people, but it's not good for business on the street. This is one of the last bastions of commercialism left in Binghamton, and you're slowly destroying it. You allowed the Greater Binghamton Mental Health Club come, and What happened there? Now we have another empty building waiting for another NGO to fill it. So to drive away more business. I mean, business is what keeps this community going. It's not crime, poverty, weed and seed. And then, I mean, as a planning board, how do you envision the city? It's dying. Are you going to pander to more crime, more poverty? And believe me, I mean, is that what's going to happen? Then it'll just be one more business gone, fewer people employed, more homeless people showing up, more depression, more drug addiction. I mean, what do you people actually envision for the city? That's what I would like to know.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julie Sauger. I reside at 176 Matthew Street. I'm not a polished speaker. I'd like to go right down the line of Clinton Street. For starters, why Clinton Street? Rogers Trucking, All Spec, the old Union Hotel, Kavaric Hardware, Mad Hatter Antiques, Treasure Hunt Antiques, the Brass Rail, 99 Clinton Street Antiques, Old Odd and Unique, Clinton Street Cafe, Parlor City Vegan. If these businesses were in downtown Binghamton would be rocking because we are all valid businesses, not a bunch of crappy bodegas. We are the business of Clinton Street and the city does not support us. We are not without heart. Every day our life is facing drug addicts, homeless people, poor people. We are compassionate to people every day. I do business with poor people on the street, but it is driving away the people who have money, who are paying the taxes for our buildings and businesses. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Harrington. I live at 11 Floral Ave. I sit before you as an employee of ACBC, also as a poor drug addict. I have been in recovery for 7 years. I am a mother of 3. I work 40 hours a week with the homeless population, and there are some weeks that I myself can barely pay my bills. At any given moment, I could be one of the people that I serve. The gentleman who sat up here, one of our clients, was one of my very first clients when I started working for ACBC. I remember it was freezing in December when I had to hand that gentleman a tent because there was nowhere for him to sleep. And he slept on a riverbank in Endicott for months. It is a human right to have shelter. I don't care who you are. I don't care what drugs you've done. I don't care if you're poor. I don't care if you're rich. It is a human right to have shelter. The color, creed, race, this is complete insanity. Yes, Clinton Street. Absolutely Clinton Street. There's churches on Clinton Street who give away free food. I drive home every single day from work and I see a line out the door. Is anybody gonna fight that church to tell them that they can't hand out free food? Are we doing that? No. Yes, Clinton Street. Absolutely. The businesses, so what? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to, it's 2022. Who buys antiques anymore anyway? But sorry, excuse me, but this is passionate because here's the thing. Homelessness is real. People are dying. Drug addiction is real, people. It's a thing. right? The Union Hotel, be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right? Homeless, we are talking about human beings who just need a place to sleep. We are talking about people, women with children. I've given a woman a tent with a 3-year-old child, for Christ's sakes. And you want to fight and tell us we can't open a warming center for 40 beds. Yes. You can look at me today and I may be an employee of ACBC, but I will always be the homeless drug addict who had to go to the YMCA after coming out of the Binghamton police station because I didn't have anywhere to go. Our programs are closing. Fairview is no longer Fairview. They're being sold to greater opportunities. The ASC, you can't just go there anymore. This is a need. This isn't just something that we want to do because, oh, you know, no, this is a need. And again, I will say it, and this is the last thing in closing. It is a human right to have shelter.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the planning board, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Jason Kovarek, and I am the owner of Kovarek Hardware located at 276 Clinton Street. Now, I think we need to level set this conversation here because nobody is here to dispute ACBC's mission. Nobody is here to not be compassionate to homeless folks. I think we would all agree that everyone here is compassionate towards the homeless in some degree, way, shape, or form. But I'd be remiss if I didn't make this comment. Had I known that ACBC was going to load the audience tonight with their employees, myself and the other local business owners in the first ward of Binghamton would have gladly done the same so that we would have an opposing point of view with as much magnitude as they have had so far. I, along with the other business owners and concerned citizens in the first ward, are here to oppose the special permit for use being granted to them. We are currently circulating a petition, and I'd like to read that to this board tonight. We, the business owners and residents located in and around Binghamton's first ward, oppose a special permit for use granted to the Addiction Center of Broome County for a warming shelter located on Charles Street in Binghamton for the following reasons. Number one, there has been no outreach by the Addiction Center of Broome County to any of the local businesses or residents that could be impacted by an influx of homeless persons into the first ward of Binghamton. They have failed to provide any specific plan for security if such a warming shelter is approved. And I use the word specific, not hypothetical. They have failed to provide clarity regarding criteria for the selection process for admittance to the warming shelter, and furthermore, have not provided a clear and defined process for dismissal of patrons that will prevent more homeless persons from occupying Binghamton's first ward upon the shelter's daily closure. As of July 31st, 2023, they have failed to show evidence or hard data of a positive social or economic impact of such a shelter that has been erected in other communities as per the request of this board. This shelter is not in line with Mayor Cram's vision of a revitalized Clinton Street being a natural extension of downtown Binghamton. We believe that it will significantly discourage any new businesses, families, or students from moving into the first ward and thus stifle any future economic growth of the area. We believe that there are other suitable locations, and this is key. We believe that there are other suitable locations with better infrastructure already in place to house a warming shelter that are not in the heart of Clinton Street, an area that is in desperate need of revitalization. And lastly, the shelter will most probably act as further encouragement to more homeless people camping at the site at First Ward Park by Spring Forest Cemetery, thus adding to issues such as sanitation and potential crime in the neighborhood. Now, I'd like to call out the following and thank them for joining us in this extremely important endeavor. Obviously, my business, Kovarek Hardware, Rogers Service Group, the Old Union Hotel, Mad Hatter Antiques, Michael Butler Allstate Insurance, Binghamton Auto, McKeska Funeral Home, Aegis Cremation and Funeral Services, The Strip Shop, the folks at 99 Clinton Street, Matt at Southern Tier Physical Therapy, Tony at Allspec Finishing, and It's Equity LLC. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are looking at is a business community here in the First Ward that has rallied and is galvanizing around opposing this initiative. It's not that we oppose helping the homeless. We do. We oppose the location that is being chosen, the lack of planning to detail, the security and the vision that's gone into it. We're dealing with what ifs. What if we get more funding? If this permit is granted to them, what's to stop them from turning this 40-person warming shelter into a 400-bed warming shelter? I asked that question in all fairness and honesty. They've also made some contradictory statements here tonight regarding the hours that the patrons would be allowed to enter and leave. The last time we met, it was they were free to leave between the hours of 5 and 7. Now they're in there at 5. I asked, which one is it? Where are the details, the concrete details? We'd like to see those. 11% is the figure that they're throwing out with people that have been admitted with a criminal background. But yet tonight, they said that no person with a felony will be admitted. But then they backtracked and they said, well, it's only a sex offense or arson. Those are the only criteria that will prevent them from being admitted. So let me get this right. You can't get in if you have a sex offense or arson, but you know, assault is okay. Burglary is okay. I personally don't want to invite that to come into the neighborhood that we're living and doing business in.
All right, 5 minutes.
Folks, I just urge you, to think about the local businesses and how we have come here to voice our opinion. And I'll be happy to provide you with a copy of that petition, which folks have signed, and the numbers grow day by day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else who would like to speak?
How are you doing? My name is Matthew Pringle. I'm also an employee of ACBC. I live in the neighborhood of First Ward. Just sitting here listening. The hours of the ACBC warming center is at night when most of the businesses is not open. And if they feel scared that burglary might happen or destruction to their property might happen, you can have a camera. A simple camera, and then call the cops. Let them do their job. It's very simple. And then businesses, they feel like they're gonna fail. Maybe you're already failing. Sometimes, you know, you got to pack up and leave.
Maybe just stick to the warming center.
I mean, I'm just listening, you know. I hear a lot about the businesses, right? Bringing the homeless people. How is that going to decrease when it's at nighttime? Your business is not open, right or wrong? So how is that hurting them?
All right.
That's all I really got to say.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm Janet Inglesby, and I'm from Owego. And I wanted to say that I feel for the businesses, I really do, but I think they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. We are bringing 100 employed people to that building, whether we have the warming shelter or not. We are going to be investing $20 million into the building over the next 5 years. So our buildings are well maintained. Anyone can go on any of our tours. We've already started the renovations. We've been cleaning up the human feces out of our parking lot that have been left there over the years. We are cleaning it up. It's going to be a better place. But
really, we're trying to increase that economy. Where we're at, it's not working. We're overgrown. We have people sharing offices. We don't have any space. We are at the point where we need to do this. We bought a building. It was zoned for social work. Okay. Now everyone keeps saying, why didn't you do your homework? You're going to get, we did our homework. We knew we needed a special use permit for the one section of our business. We're doing that. But the other thing is we're going to improve the economics in the neighborhood. We're going to be buying gas. We're going to be going shopping at lunch. We're going to be eating at lunchtime. All those things. People eat at the Grand Union Hotel already. People have been shopping at the antique store. It can only benefit that. We can bring the people that have concerns off the street at night and keep them safe and keep the businesses safe. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda. Amanda Lewis. I'm sorry. I hate public speaking. But this is just something I'm so passionate about. I'm going to speak more along the lines as a patient of ACBC. I should say previous patient of ACBC. ACBC supported me, when I had no other support, when I was in legal trouble, when I was on drug court. I actually graduated right in this center right here from Broome County Drug Court because of the support that ACBC provided me. And because of, my what's the word I'm looking for? Success. I was employed and now I can help those people that struggle just like I did. I was sleeping behind houses. I was a person out there doing criminal behavior, but I have been reformed, right? And for the homeless individual that came up here and spoke, he was speaking from his heart. He was speaking from the pain that he experienced living out behind my house in Endicott for months while he stayed in recovery. Like people, it's possible. Like recovery is possible. And with the support of you guys in a warming shelter, like it gives people chance. Like these are humans. And I'm just wondering about that build out. That's a big build out. We're going to need supplies for that stuff. Lumber, all that type of stuff. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nora Heath. I have a business at 52 Clinton Street. Been there for 25 years. We've paid taxes. I totally understand. There's a huge drug problem, homelessness problem. I have all the compassion in the world, firsthand experience from years ago. But Clinton Street, for 25 years, I've gone to meetings and business meetings, and there was all these dreams of all these things that were going to happen on Clinton Street. We're still waiting for Christmas decorations from the city, garbage cans. There was all these dreams and nothing has happened in 25 years. Petitioners, that basically is a shelter for homeless people, because that's all it's ever been. It's not on the tax rolls. It's an eyesore. Homeless people hang out there. I've seen crimes committed for the last 25 years. And quite honestly, I think there should be a warming shelter, just not in a business district. In 25 years, there has been nothing but blight, drug addicts, crime. I have people that I know, customers, they say they don't even like coming to our diner because they're afraid of the neighborhood. It's really getting a bad reputation. And again, there's a problem. It needs to be addressed. But we're a business district. And we've had there's been a lot of promise of a lot of opportunities, things going to happen. Just last year, there was a big grant Well, the South Side got that grant. We didn't. You know, we've been waiting for grants forever. Nothing is happening except blight, drug addiction. I saw two homeless people fighting across on Tishner's the other day. One homeless guy was stealing the other homeless person's stuff. And yes, they need help. But I haven't seen, the mental health clinic used to be on Clinton Street. I haven't seen any benefit for all these social programs to any of our businesses, and we are taxpayers. You know, a part of our income is supporting your salary. You know, I mean, I feel like Clinton Street, the ball's been dropped. All the federal, you know, grant money, everything goes downtown, student housing, social programs. But what about the businesses when a lot of them have left because they've given up? You know, I totally agree. They need a warming shelter, but not in the business district, because I'm not seeing any good results. And, you know, the program, the drug, you know, that's a great program. I'm not knocking that. But it's not helping the existing businesses that pay taxes and pay taxes for a lot of these social programs. I'm not seeing the benefit. I see more drug addiction, more homelessness, more insanity than I've ever seen before in Binghamton. So, I mean, that's all I have to say. I oppose it.
Thank you.
I wasn't expecting to speak today, but it seemed like everybody thought everybody here worked for ACBC. I do not. I work for social services here in Broome County. My name is Courtney Elliott. I live at 49 Vine Street on the south side. I've lived in Binghamton for 6 years now, and Broome County for 26 years. I'm also a landlord in the city of Binghamton. And just from a social service side of things, there is a lack of affordable housing. There's a crisis here. Everybody here has been affected by inflation, but also people who receive social services, the rate that they are given for any service, whether that be food stamps, temporary assistance, housing, it has not gone up at the same rate as inflation. So what we're finding is that there are more homeless people in our area because we just don't have the resources to provide. Hotels, what they're saying is accurate. The hotels here, we have there's contracts with motels and hotels in the area. And what we found during those cold blue days is there was nowhere to put anybody. So people are just going wherever. At my home on the south side, one of my homes, there's a vacant lot next door, right? The city hasn't done anything about it. It's been vacant for 3 years. But sometimes, I mean, Vine Street is a few blocks from CPEP. I mean, sometimes there are people wandering the streets. I mean, there's been numerous police reports. So it doesn't matter where you live or what's near you per se. It's just there's going to be random homeless people walking wherever they can, right? They just don't have a place to go. So by providing them a safe space to go, it works out. And truthfully, as a resident of Binghamton for 6 years, Clinton Street's been dying, and the only thing good there is probably the hardware store and in the bar, to be quite honest. And it's not like anybody's walking down Clinton Street for fun. There's just nothing there. So might as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be quick. Hi, I'm Daniela, and I am an employee at ACBC. I come up here, I wasn't even gonna talk, but based on what I'm hearing is right. The reason we keep giving you our stories is because we're trying to give you a background on how ACBC helped, which we all know, right? Somebody mentioned it. We know what ACBC is doing. We know that they're not refuting that we're not doing the things. We're not out there trying to help the people. I guess why I came up here is because every day on the way to work, I drive down Clinton Street. They are sleeping in the doorways of all of your businesses that you've mentioned, all of them, in the bushes behind the businesses. Like, and we're the ones that stop.
If you could
And we're
direct your,
trying to get them off
direct
of.
them, direct your
So
comments. to
I'm
us.
sorry.
Thank you.
So what we're trying to do is, I think we do have a passion for the businesses out there. I think that's what you're missing. Like, I think we came in here to tell you about how good ACBC is, but we do understand the value of these local businesses. But what the issue is, the homelessness is already there. We're trying to come in and help them, because the reality is, like, peer advocates that work with these people, even if they don't want help in that moment, it has been proven over and over and over again that repeated exposure to these peers will eventually get them in a situation where we can get them help, and we can get them off of the street, and we can get them out of your businesses where they're sleeping, where there might be causing harm. Like, we're trying to remove that out of the community. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you. All right. Anybody else who would like to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Adam Kipp, own a business at 246 Clinton Street. Going on probably almost like 2 hours. So I just want to applaud everybody here. Thank you for your patience and hearing everybody out. I'd like to applaud everybody that came up here to speak tonight, whether you are supportive or against this. It takes a lot to get up in front of people. I applaud the fact that ACBC has so many employees here speaking in support. ACBC runs great programs, and it's nice to know that there are so many people that are so passionate about what they do in helping our community. I agree with most things that everybody had to say, whether you are in support of this or against it. We have a major homeless crisis. I may get my number wrong, but Jeff Pryor said about 10,000 individuals. So 40 beds seems like a drop in a bucket. We have a land bank that spends millions of dollars on one or two houses. That I think that money could stretch a little further. So there are other ways to combat the homeless problem here in our city. I obviously am against the warming center. Not that I don't think one is needed. I don't think that this is the correct area for it. The first young lady that spoke, Rebecca, who has been working with homeless people, I don't remember how many years she said she's doing it. She said a lot of things that made sense, and I think she was correct in a lot of things. One thing I did disagree with what she said is that crime does not increase around these centers. All the research I've done says quite the opposite. I do understand at the last meeting, at your request, ACBC was asked if they could show any hard evidence or hard data of social economic impact, and we still have not heard that. Impact I have just from this one report, I won't go through all of them I have, but from the Journal of Experimental Criminology, shows that the average crime count per year within 300 meters of shelters, total property and mischief crime is 1,780, which is almost 5 a day. Breaking and entering residential is 75, so one about every 5 days. Breaking and entering commercial, 137, which is one pretty much every other day. Almost 600 theft from vehicles, which is just about twice a day. And other theft, 709, which is at least 2 a day. There are many reports that if you could search on the internet, you can find that information. Another thing that a lot of supporters speaking tonight, which I 100% agree with them, is how sad it is to have children walk on the streets, children without a place to stay. I have 3 young children myself, so I'm very sentimental to the fact that every child in this not just in this city, but this entire country, should not have to worry about their next meal or where they're going to be sleeping. However, a quote from the last meeting. This is a quote from Ms. Burrich. Carmel, I'm really sorry if I mispronounced your name. It was stated in the February meeting that the intent is to focus on single people, so families families can be in the hotels. So they said they will be turning away any families with children. Another concern is bringing in homeless people that may be just looking for somewhere to maybe use. Just going through some of their quotes from some of the prior meetings. They're saying that one of the problems is in the hotels, there's no trained professionals there to help someone if they were to overdose. And so that does tell me that we are talking about people that will be using and maybe just going to get somewhere warm, get their fix in, and then immediately out in the middle of the night. One individual that was mentioned at a prior meeting of a candidate for a warming center is an individual with a mental health issue. He was in a hotel and he got kicked out of his hotel, the room that we got for him. He was replaced into a new hotel the next day and he was kicked out of that hotel because he was just simply not stable. I'm just pointing out a few quotes of some of the information that's kind of, to me, kind of being covered up. Not necessarily covered up, but just reworded.
All right, Adam, you have 5 minutes.
All right, if I can just make one last point. This is an industrial park district, yes, but it still need a special use permit. And at the last meeting, Tito had brought up a segregated project, and we keep hearing $20 million investment into this building, but we're only hearing about this one permit for this one project, correct? So as a segregated project, I don't believe that is allowed. Regardless if they have plans that they may do something in the future or may not, they have brought it up that they'll be investing $20 million. That tells me that there are going to be future projects. And so I think as a concerned citizen, I would like to see the full scale of what their plans are before they pretty much split up the permit for different projects.
All right. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Callahan. I live at 40 Elm Street. I grew up in the first ward. I also am the chair of the block grant, the CDAC, the Citizen Advisory Committee for the block grant. And I know both from where I live and who I live around and my work on the block grant that there is a homeless problem and it's getting worse in this community. I also know that everyone here, and I am almost in tears listening to both sides of this issue, because I know that both sides of these issues, there are people with good hearts who want to do the right thing. And that's the saddest part here, because what we have is a system that is failing everybody. It's failing businesses, it's failing the homeless, it's failing the residents who live around the Charles Street plant, where they have First Ward Park, the homeless enclave. And I have friends who live around Seymour who are already experiencing the negative repercussions of what's happening. My neighborhood has experienced a series of break-ins recently. People coming right into the bedrooms of homes in the first ward, unheard of when I was growing up. What I would like to suggest is, no matter what you guys decide about this warming center, that this community begin to work together to solve the problems of homelessness and drug addiction and the housing stock in this community, which is rotting on the vine as we have these huge problems. And I would also ask that city council be more proactive in making sure that resources are found that meet the needs of this community. I'm sure, in fact, I want to recommend that the Addiction Center and anyone else who's interested will come to our First Ward Neighborhood Watch meetings that we have the first Tuesday or second Tuesday of the month at the Senior Center on Clinton Street, because working together is the only way we're going to solve this problem. And we are a good-hearted community that can do this. So it may sound pie in the sky, but damn it, we can do this.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Ron Rogers. We own Rogers Service Group on Clinton Street. I've been working there 51 years myself. And Clinton Street is in probably the worst condition it's ever been in those 50 years. And the reason is because the city does not have the ability to keep up on buildings that are run down, buildings that are falling apart. And only with commercialism will we get a better tax base so that we can do more for social services, homelessness, helping people, food. Our company is not against that at all, but it has become very dangerous on Clinton Street. In the winter months, when it's dark at 4 or 5 o'clock, we have to walk all our female employees to the car. They've been accosted. Our drivers have been held up at night when they come in late at night to park their trucks. It's probably the worst condition that it's been, as I said, in those number of years. Also, the 4 or 5 vacant acres of land right across from this homeless shelter where it's planned is under development. It's been 1.5 years that people have been working on this to put over 100 housing units in there and 15 or 20 commercial places. I think that would be a big plus for the community. Yes, we own the land, but it's not a monetarily decision on our part at all. We could have sold that land many times, but the developers were not putting what we thought was right for the community. Now we know it's right. And I think if these developers find out that there's a homeless shelter directly across the street from them, I think they'll walk or they'll put up a stink. And that hurts everybody. It hurts the tax base, hurts all the residents in First Ward, and it hurts all the residents in the city of Binghamton. Again, we are not against homelessness or any social services whatsoever, but it's a bottom line basic decision. You want a larger tax base? You want to clean up Clinton Street? You want to make it the proud street that it used to be 50 some years ago? Or do you want it to keep it as a mediocre street and it'll just keep deteriorating? It's a tough call for everybody. It's not fun to hear the pros and cons here, but the bottom line is if you're going to develop it, you need to start with a commercial base, get the tax base up to increase taxes so the city can spend more money on services that everyone needs. That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Hello. My name's Liana Testani and I live on the west side. So as a resident and the vice president of the board of ACBC, I'm here in support. And to just go a little bit back, I joined ACBC not knowing very much about the organization, but as I've learned and been in my role, I support Camilla and know she has a great vision and know she wouldn't be getting into anything without doing her homework. Some people have said that we haven't provided the literature. Also, I totally scrapped my entire speech, so I'm just going. So, but I believe in the new packet that we have supplied the literature. Sorry, I know I should have turned. We supplied the literature. and a more developed plan as she has the experience over the summer. So to the businesses, I understand their concern, but ACBC bought this building about a year and a half ago. I'm really off with my time frame. And the problem was already there. So, and the redevelopment, I know the mayor said that he wants to do something over there, but we bought the building, we paid taxes this year. And yes, we are a nonprofit, but we are probably going to move towards being tax-free. But that 20 million, it's an investment into the building. And then when ACBC is gone, maybe in 200 years, that building will have all of the upgrades to it. We know people have concerns that are neighbors, but we also know those neighbors cause some issues as well in the neighborhood, but no one is looking at that to fix that problem. Also with the crime, that is a citywide issue. You cannot just say that it is a Clinton Street issue. It is citywide. So that's all I'm gonna say.
All right.
No.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else who would like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission members. Before I start, I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge the courage of so many people who have come forward this evening and talked about very personal, life-altering traumatic things that are virtually impossible for most people to bear publicly. It's a really big deal. It speaks to the level of passion and compassion of all the people in this room. But that being said, while I want to thank you all for the opportunity and engaging this public discussion, I'm going to attempt to approach this in a different manner than anyone else who has spoken tonight, which is rather than not come to this seat with a pre-placed opinion, arrive at a conclusion based upon what is set before you. The proposal before you this evening objectively falls short on several merits, of which many neighbors, local businesses, and individuals have been communicating to this body for months as a matter of public record. Under permissible site plan review, there are two important categories that I would maintain that each of you this evening need to pay particular attention to. Number one, public safety. Number two, comparability of the general neighborhood. While many news articles and periodicals that have been submitted this evening, months after this discussion has formally started, while they will infer in oftentimes an editorial fashion why warming centers are not magnets for crime and issues of public safety, I would suggest that you turn to those same news agencies and those same periodicals that report on just the exact opposite. For example, which I have printed out a copy and I will submit for the public record. In June 2023, a homeless man was arrested for reporting forgive me, for a stabbing incident that had 3 other charges with it. This happened here in New York. And by extension, now the warming center is closed. A simple Google search will offer you 7,000,003 examples of how this happens after the fact. More importantly, I've also provided a copy for you of a longitudinal, almost 10-year study conducted by not just researchers and social scientists, but criminologists at the University of Pennsylvania that was submitted for publication in the Journal of Experimental Criminology. It's not even 10 years old. Researching the impact of shelters of all types, whether they be emergency or warming or not, on public crime. Quote, "We found strong evidence that the presence of a shelter is associated with an increase in property and mischief crime. When shelters open, we find that within 100 meters of the shelter total property and mischief crimes increase by 56.3%. These are criminologists. These are people who live in this data all day long. It's a very robust model. You can look at it yourself. From a public standpoint, the evidence and the data are clear. A warming center, from what I'm being told, by residents, many, not all, but most, small businesses, and other stakeholders in the community, is that they do not see this incompatibility with a main thoroughfare that has both industrialized and small businesses, as well as homeowners and renters and tenants.
All right, we're at 5 minutes.
If I know a few people got a few more,
Sure.
So thank you. The capacity here is incredibly important because take antiquing, for example. A simple Google search will illustrate to you that in the United States last year, this was a $2.6 billion industry. You want homeowners and small businesses and all stakeholders to have a positive sense of what is moving in the community because they all contribute to it. So in conclusion, I want to thank you all for your time, and based on these concerns and facts related to public safety, to let that be the guidance of your decision. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else that would like to speak? All right, last chance. All right, thank you, everybody who did speak tonight. So this is the chance for the applicant to respond. Just a reminder that the public hearing portion is now ended. We're not going to officially close it, just in case the project gets held over for some reason. But at this point, we're not taking comments from the public anymore. And we ask respectfully that everybody be quiet and let the applicant respond. And again, if there's a problem with that, the security guard has been notified and will come escort you out. All right. Your chance to respond to any comments that were made.
So that's a lot to respond to and a lot for everyone to digest, but just want to refocus on the purpose of tonight and the application that's pending before you. just to clarify a few things.
Sarah, could you talk right
Yeah,
into them?
sorry.
Thank you.
If I talk this close, I can't see me. So this is an application for site plan review and an application for a special permit. A special permit use, as a social services use is in this zoning district, is a legislative determination that's already been made that this use can be appropriate in this zoning district. That same determination was made by the legislative body with respect to essentially every property that fronts on Clinton Street. And I showed you my red. So all those properties, this use is permitted or permitted by special permit. This is not a shelter. This is a warming station that is open for a discrete period of time during the year and is open for a discrete period of hours during that period of time. Site plan and special permit criteria, you all are very familiar with. I know that. I would also like to remind you that this is not a popularity contest one way or the other. This is a objective analysis of the actual project before you, which is, just to refresh, 2,000 square feet of a 63,000 square foot building, a very small portion of the building. There's been some allegation or some suggestion that some of your questions weren't answered. We did provide a packet of information to you, which I know has been distributed to you. We addressed all of the issues identified: a plan for security, criteria for admission, dismissal protocol, empirical evidence and data with respect to the issue of crime. All of those issues were addressed with the submission that you received. I think that when you are looking at this application, just like any other application that you look at, you have to look at not maybe what you think is a good idea or what you think is a bad idea, but yet you have to recognize that the elected officials have already decided that this could be an okay idea in this area. There aren't many other areas in the city of Binghamton in which that decision was made. And look at the facility itself by virtue of site plan. ACBC owns 15 Charles Street. They also own an adjacent parcel of almost an acre with nothing on it, which will be utilized for parking. So the suggestion that there's not adequate parking is simply unfounded. In terms of site plan, it's only an improvement. And again, in terms of the special permit criteria, we would just ask that you look at the criteria and base your determination on objective information that you've been provided, as opposed to generalized community opposition. And I think Carmela has a few points that she wanted to make as well.
Yes, we do own the parking lot that's in the adjacent parcel. We do intend to put more cameras on it because, like many of the residents of the Clinton Street area have said, there is crime going on. But I don't think having the warming center is going to contribute to that. It's already very rampant. If anything, if we don't have a warming center, we may see, as things get colder, or even as they don't get colder, like that crime and homelessness is going to continue and not get better. So to turn away a resource just doesn't really make sense. I would be happy to meet with any local business owners. I have met with some that I won't identify who. But I guess, to hear that people are galvanizing against us is a little bit uncomfortable. But in any case, I want relationships with business owners. We need to be able to get hardware products and have a place to go to lunch that's within walking distance. And having 100 plus employees, I think would really be of great benefit to area businesses, and we want to have positive relationships. Regarding security, I didn't provide the entire policy and procedures, but I can do that. But what is typical industry standard is providing at least a background check. Does someone have any warrants? That's kind of the bare minimum. We have surpassed the bare minimum with doing a full and complete criminal background check on individuals that come in. We have an airport quality, a prison quality metal detector that our guests walk through. In addition to walking through that, they are also wanded. So, that was part of the security that we explained, and that the staff is well trained in crisis de-escalation, in handling individuals that have experienced trauma, so that we're not re-traumatizing or triggering individuals. Regarding the correct area, and it does seem like the community's on the same page that we need this service, I just wanted to mention, is the YWCA on Holly Street in an okay place? Is the YMCA in an okay place? Is the Salvation Army? Is the VOA? Is St. Cyril's Outreach, where 10,000 people are getting food every month, in an okay place? I'm not sure if there's any perfect place that individuals that need to walk to a service, can get to that a community would necessarily agree. Is the United Presbyterian Church in the best place? It's working, it's safe, and we haven't had any significant issues. So I just, there are services in the community in all parts of the city of Binghamton. As far as turning away children, we absolutely would not want to do that. And in the report that you were sent since April 27th, we actually had 9 children that were guests at the Comfort Center at United Presbyterian. We absolutely don't intend to really take kids, but if they show up, we're not going to turn them away, and we wouldn't do that. Because our preference is to work with adults. So, as was explained, that families can be in hotel rooms, but sometimes there might be a barrier or a circumstance why that doesn't work out. It is a standard industry practice that people should be trained in opioid overdose reversal. That includes all the fast food restaurants in the community, most restaurants, most businesses, schools. That's also just kind of industry standard. Not that we would be like supporting anyone using, our guests that come into the Comfort Center, like their belongings are locked up for the night. So no one has access to stuff. Okay. And that's all I wanted to add.
All right. All right. Any questions or comments? It's a lot. Chris, start us off. Yep.
Sarah, Carmela, a variety of questions based on some of the feedback we received that I was taking notes on. Carmela, you already talked a little bit about this, but maybe you can clarify this. Focusing on families versus single folks, individuals at the warming center. Previously, I seem to remember there was discussed a preference for bringing in individuals to the warming center so that the DSS hotel options could be prioritized for families. Is that still the case, or is that changed?
That's still the case.
It would prioritize admitting individuals so that the families could be focused on the DSS hotel process. Okay. Going to one of the public safety concerns. You're screening for entry and screening out for non-admission, child sex offenders, and arsonists. Correct? So what happens when those folks are turned away? at the door?
Well, as of now, most programs will not take a sex offender or an individual with an arson conviction. So they largely will get placed at hotels, and the county typically uses a certain hotel or two.
So ACBC staff would, when declining admission to those individuals because of their criminal conviction status, would then proactively reach out to DSS after hours and say, hey, Billy is here. We can't admit because of X, Y, and Z. Billy is now your problem.
We can, but they already know who we would and would not be able to take. And it's actually on the flyers, it's on the literature, you know, as far as like materials that we would already have provided to DSS. Oh, okay. And it's after hours.
That's
Yes.
just when I show up,
Right.
I've been discovered to have part of that criminal background in my history. You have to turn me away. I haven't read your flyers. I didn't know that's your policy. What's being done with me? What's your process
So
for?
we would have to contact the after hours DSS on call person.
I guess the other thing I just want to ask generally, because one of the other things we need to consider is the compatibility with the general character of the neighborhood. We have had a number of local business owners here express their concerns. Their concerns are justified. They're being heard. I won't lie, I'm concerned that some of your advocates, some of which self-identified as your own staff members, seemed at times indifferent and sometimes even hostile to the local businesses that are going to be, in theory, your neighbors. I'm just concerned about how your organization or the staff members thereof are going to be as neighbors, and how that's going to affect the general character of the neighborhood, just given what I listened to for a good portion of the last 2 hours.
I think that they're very, very passionate and very dedicated to helping people. And we want to be part of that community. You know, we want to be able to go shopping and eat and buy gas and be part of the First Ward neighborhood watch group. So I think people are just passionate. I don't think that there's actual hostility towards any businesses. There might be towards us.
I appreciate these comments, and I have a variety of questions for you both. So bear with me. One of my questions is that I keep coming back to is that we've got, you know, only 4 beds and 2,000 square feet, 60,000, sorry, but you don't buy 60,000 if you're not going to utilize it. So I know there must be plans. And I think that this is of greater concern because, you know, even if the plans aren't developed yet, I think it is sometimes the what ifs, what's happening next? What's this going to evolve into? And what are we looking at? Because it just starts small. And then this isn't any longer a warming station. This is someplace that's housing with 150 employees. We know that there is growth that's in the future. And that, I think, is just something that's there, like the boogeyman. They don't know, and it's a fear. And I'd like you to address that if you would.
It's not an unfair question at all. One of the biggest things that will happen is the consolidation of office and the centralization of the organization. So the organization is right now in a number of different locations in terms of the staff. So that's a big component of the project. So is office use. Office use under the zoning regulations is permitted by right. So it's not something that we've talked about because it's allowed, right? The things that we would have to come back to you for, like anybody would, are overnight accommodations, growth of the warming station, expanding the hours of operation, making it a 12-month comfort station like the one downtown is. Those are the sorts of things that would have to come back. Like something else that's anticipated or at least envisioned is medical services. Medical services are permitted by right in this district. It would not require any additional approvals necessarily from you. So we haven't talked about those kinds of things because those things are allowed in the district anyways, or are allowed as a matter of site plan, not special permit. And you can speak to any other thing. As I said, the employee daycare is also another thing that I know you're looking at.
We need space for offices. We need space for group rooms. We need space for medical records, billing, administration. In addition to the employee daycare, we'd like to put in an employee gym. So, like offices, just rooms.
I can just say that it's only my opinion that it could be possible that some of those, if they were on the table, it won't help to, with some of the business owners' concerns, but it might also bring the viability of the community that you're bringing within there with the employees and the positive aspects of generating commerce in the area and traffic. I know you've touched briefly, but if there's more of a developed plan, that might be something to assuage some of the problems here. But I'll go on, and I appreciate that. Would there be any way to have you consider expanding the parameters of the crimes that were allowed to include any more violent crimes to be put under the people who were not allowed into this specific warming center? I know that's a hard question to ask. I'm sorry.
I would certainly be open to considering that if that's something that's helpful for the community. I guess I would just also consider, like, there are individuals with all sorts of felonies working in all businesses, like pumping gas and serving food and washing dishes. And, we went with industry standard, which is
yes,
sex offense and arsonist, but we could certainly consider that.
Okay. One of my other questions for you is when you find through the metal detectors and you remove knives or whatever people have in their pockets, including drug paraphernalia, are they giving it back at the end of their release when they're going back, into the community?
Yes, whatever the person comes in with is what they would leave with. I mean, unless like something very weird happened, like if someone brought something that we knew was, definitely didn't belong to them, or, but we're not getting weapons brought in,
Right. But drugs as well. I mean, that was my other question.
We're not getting that coming through either. Like,
Okay.
it's very, very sad. The people that we're seeing right now,
No,
it's
I
physical
appreciate that.
disabilities. It's,
I
not what we
appreciate that.
expected.
I appreciate that. I was just in the circumstance that it happens, would you confiscate the drugs, I suppose?
We really wouldn't take someone's things unless we knew it didn't belong to them.
Okay. I appreciate that. Disbursement. I think that the morning disbursement is a cause for question. And I say this because I know you have such a special service there that if I were a homeless person, I knew there were 40 beds and it was going to be cold again tonight, better believe my butt wouldn't be going too far from that place, because I'd know I want to get one of those beds. And I think, I know that you're going to do your best to get them someplace else to get them the services you need, but 7 o'clock comes and game on. And like I said, if you're 40 people, there's 40 beds. I'm not going far. It's like a game of that you take away the chair. And so I think that that's a concern that, some of the business owners, that's where they're coming from, is they're going to still be right here for the day. And is there any way that you can do something more than you're saying to get them, to not just be right in the neighborhood?
So we can offer transportation. What some of the other warming centers in New York State have pickup spots So they'll go to certain locations in the community and bring people when it's time to begin services in the evening. So we can also drop people off if there's locations that would be necessary for them to go. Based on the individuals we're seeing right now, like they have walkers, they have canes, like they want to sit somewhere close by because they don't know, like, how am I going to get back here tonight? Like, that's kind of the sad truth of what we're seeing. So we will try to assist people with getting somewhere that's safe for them to be that day. And if it's super, super cold, maybe we'll just let them stay.
Two more questions. Sorry. Let's see what these are. I think that is it. Thank you for answering my question.
Nick, if I could just address something the applicant said about what uses would have to come back to the planning commission. So the uses outlined in the vision that they gave the commission in February, the majority of those would have to come back to the planning commission. So transitional housing, children's clinic, outpatient rehab, those would all have to come back to the planning commission. The case could be made that space that's going directly from office space, if that was what it was before they purchased the building, to ACBC strictly office space, that would not have to go to the planning commission. Although that's a little bit gray because social services as a land use requires a special use permit, and the offices of social service agencies do fall under that land use. So it's possible that any expansion or any additional use of the building by ACBC would have to come back to the planning commission.
And I have one more thing and it's a statement, and it's about Mary Ann Callahan. If you do end up in that neighborhood, I implore you to bridge and work with her. I've worked with her on the CDAC. She's a wealth of knowledge, a passionate individual. I know if there's a bridge to be built and a way to try to work through some things, she is an absolute resource that I would really hope that you work with.
Just want to thank my fellow commissioners for the comments and the questions that they just posed. It saved me having to do some talking because I had some of the same points myself. But I have a couple of questions and comments just on the proposal as it is and not what somebody may want it to be. So keep it out of that hypothetical realm. This will piggyback a little bit off the concern you had about the mobility of people within the neighborhood leaving the facility. I personally had reason to be given pause when I think it was at the March meeting of this commission when it was said that the clients could leave in the middle of the night. I understand this is not an adult detention center, it's not meant to be that, and certainly not wanting to put anybody in the position of operating that. Couldn't imagine how difficult it would be. But just, I think that, we can agree there's a certain optics behind the idea of people leaving. You don't know where they're going. And well, you don't want to be rooted in fear too much. There is reason to be concerned about that. And I know you can't keep people in, and we're not wanting to put you in that position, but that certainly, I think, weighs heavily on people's minds, as well as, just what may sound like to some, and not my own editorializing, but we're picking and choosing what crimes are acceptable for people to be admitted or not admitted into the facility. So Chris had asked about if somebody had committed a sexual offense against a child, that's a disqualifying factor. They can't be there. Is it the same if it's somebody convicted of a sexual crime against an adult? Are we treating that the same way?
It's all sex offenses.
Okay.
So
I thought so, but I wanted, because
yes,
he had
all
split
of
that out, I wanted to make sure that I understood that and was hoping you would say that. I think it was in the comments that Councilman Scaringi made when he was up at the microphone about a warming station in another city where there's some type of violent crime that had occurred committed by one of the people using the facility, and the permit was pulled or was shut down. I don't know what the legal mechanism was, but the warming station was no longer allowed to function. If permission was granted and we went ahead and gave the site use plan, do we have permission to pull it if we have concerns about safety and the administration of this property?
All right, can you repeat that?
Sure. If there are safety incidents, if we go ahead and vote for this site plan to be granted and it opens, and there are sufficient concerns, either violent crimes or things like of that nature, do we either as the commissioners, as the city, have the authority to shut this down by whatever mechanism is available to them?
There is a provision in the zoning code that a special use permit can be revoked by the supervisor of building and construction. I've never seen that used, but there is also a lockdown provision. So if a certain number of points are accrued, and those points are based on criminal activity, right? That the facility could be locked down.
To the point raised earlier, I think maybe it was Chris about the people coming to speak at the microphone, and it is heartbreaking here on all sides. Everything has been shared, and I have a lot of respect and admiration for those who came up and shared their deeply personal stories. I couldn't imagine the hell many of these people have gone through, let alone to come and share that with total strangers, you know, not having seen me or members of the commission before. And also I'm sensitive to the residents and the business owners that have spoke or sent letters. And this is part two of a public hearing that I think was in March when it first opened. And so we had a number of people that live nearby that spoke during part A of this public hearing. And tonight we had quite a lot and I learned a lot, learned from the people who work for ACBC. But, you know, trying to weigh all of these factors together, I consider that an extension of the applicant. And, you know, trying to, you know, reconcile that we have not had any residents or very few residents, maybe none, just trying to keep careful track, who spoke for this that are not affiliated with ACBC. So, which is, I think, a very important point. One, okay, so as I said, very few, I was trying to not be in the absolute unless I was correct about that. So that's something that I think as commissioners are trying to keep in mind as far as gauging the community sentiment and making the right decision. It's tough. We're not going to make everybody happy, you know, and one of the questions I had, and I think it was answered by Tito, is would future uses due to increased use of this facility come back before the commission? So it's not like we give this to you and it's like, we're off and running. The plan was to have a 400-bed shelter and, you know, we tricked you and we got the, you know, it's, you know, it's not a bait and switch kind of thing that the, you know, the mechanisms exist for it to have the checks and balances. So you've got to come back if you want to get some more things done. I don't have anything further. Thank you. All right.
I think just to follow up on your comment, in terms of leaving in the night, I think that is an issue that we tried to address. But I think if you look at the history of the station or the comfort station that's open now, there's been very few people that are leaving in the night, and it's warm. You know, this is people who are coming into a freezing situation or from a freezing situation. The likelihood that they are going to bolt in the middle of the night, it's not zero. And I'm not going to be disingenuous to suggest that, but it's very low that somebody would, you know, theoretically leave in the middle of the night.
Would you say it's a higher potential of occurrence that somebody would be out in the street because they were tossed for not following the rules or causing an incident, trying to hurt somebody else, trying to steal, do something that you decide you don't want to have them there? So you're not going to keep them, you send them out, and where they go is where they go. That's probably more likely than somebody saying it's 5 degrees out, like I'm going to go on my own. Like I don't know who would do that.
Right. And what it sounds like to me from listening to the business owners is that those people are already out there. They're already there. They're already sleeping in the doorways. They're already sleeping in the trash. They're sleeping in the bushes. So it isn't as if that doesn't exist anyways.
Yeah, Chris?
This question may be more for Carmela than for Sarah. Multiple times now, people have referenced, both you two at the mic and also multiple speakers in the public hearing, about this. I'm hoping I got this down at the First Up Comfort Center that's at the Presbyterian Church on Chenango Street. How is that similar to or different from the proposed warming center?
So what's different is that we're not following a 32-degree admission, you know, like it's been open 5 nights a week since April 27th. So we're following the same policies that we proposed for the Code Blue Center. We did make some changes from, you know, when we conceptualized this and presented in March, where we don't actually allow individuals to go out for any breaks. You know, once they're in, they're kind of in for the night. And that's the rules. So, you know, we think that it's a good pilot, you know, to help us gain experience for Code Blue.
How many beds are at the Presbyterian Church location?
42, and I would invite anyone from the Planning Commission or the community if they want to come take a visit, if they want to have a little tour, we can arrange that.
Similar parameters, open at 5, food for the.
We're open at 7.
Okay.
There's a light dinner, people check in. If anyone's new that hasn't been with us before, we can do a kind of a brief screening with them. We have a little bit of time before kind of lights out to start working on what kind of resources does that person need. We will do their laundry. People have had a lot of needs and need referrals. So we get those things started. And then at 7 a.m. is when people leave.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I have a few comments, but not to address to them. I hope to address us.
Are they related to the project or?
Yes, they're just a little bit of history.
Yeah, Joe, could you talk into the
I'm sorry,
microphone?
but
Just
it's just a little history I want to bring up about a few things related to the project. One is that about 10 to 15 years ago, we had the Volunteers of America bring in, and I can't recall if it was a halfway house or a recovery center on Clinton Street. And it was kind of the same situation as tonight. There was a lot of these men to speak passionately about how the Volunteers of America help people. And then there was the group of business owners who came in and had concerns. This was closer to the old location of Philadelphia Sales, somewhere in that area on Clinton Street. And they came in and spoke about concerns over how it affects their livelihood and their income. And the planning board voted to not allow the project to proceed. And then what happened after that, because it was a permitted use, the Volunteers of America sued the members of this board individually. The reason I know that, if any of us can go on Broome County GIS and see your own personal history of everything about you that's registered with the county or the government. And there was a lawsuit against me personally defended by the city for that activity because it was a permitted use. So that weighed heavily on the minds of the VOA that local business opposition overrode, had enough concerns, about safety to cause that problem. Then following that, maybe about 10 years ago, I was asked to work on a special project for the city to look at buying that site where the gas turbine was located, a cogeneration plant next door on Charles Street. And the city put an extensive effort through economic development to try and bring businesses into that area. And we got pretty far with developing an independent site with a gas turbine there. But in the end, it wasn't able to get through all the regulatory hurdles for electric transmission and other issues. After about 3 or 4 years of work, it didn't move. So the point I wanted to make is that site has had a lot of exercise about trying to bring businesses in there. So then so that gets us to this, the history.
now we're talking about, again, bringing a business in. And it's a humanitarian business, but it's a business, and there's opposition from people who live in the neighborhood. So really, it's the issue becomes then is, in my particular case, I work through another individual with two of the businesses. So that's why I recused myself last time. So if I want to make this point this out, if I didn't do that, I would strongly consider the issue of the permitted use. And the whole thing about safety is people, the safety issue depends on how well law enforcement works, and it's not perfect. So there is a risk involved. So it's a very, very complex issue. But because I know and have through another person have a business relationship, I can't, I don't think I can vote like I did last time. I have to recuse myself when we get to that point. Because there's one line that says permitted use, and that would lead me in one direction. But that might, the other direction saying, well, I support that not being used, then I'm just doing that for my, what I know of people. So that's where I got to sit this one out again.
All right, so
But that's, I just want to let you know the history, and that we did go through a very similar project, and the individuals got sued on the planning board because it was a permitted use and nothing became of it. The city defended us. And so we have to give our opinion the way we think.
that's an excellent point. All right, so Joe, are you saying you need to recuse yourself
I
from this
think I have
project?
to, because again, I know people that got up and spoke
Okay,
again. And if I would lean that direction, it's obvious which way I would vote.
okay, so you would be swayed by a
Well-
personal relationship.
Well, you
And
shouldn't do that just because it should be an independent decision, and it's a tough one. But we already been through this, and because it was a permitted use. And that's the case which happened. And the
Okay.
city has put a lot of effort into trying to develop this as an industrial area and nothing else. And a lot of effort to bring other businesses in to make it, to generate electricity. Nothing that's been done that has brought forward any other business relationship or anything.
But oh, Joe, are you still, you got a green light on there still?
Yeah.
All right, they can't pick you up on the microphone. You
Oh,
got
I'm
to put it real
sorry.
close. But I guess the big question is, so you have your opinion about the project is going to be swayed by a personal relationship or a monetary gain that you might get from.
Couple of them, two.
Okay, so then you should recuse yourself.
Yeah.
Is that, you agree with that? All right. So probably, I guess at this point, you could probably sit in the audience with everybody else if you're okay with that. All right.
Nick, I just want to point out that social services as a land use is not permitted by right. It requires a special use permit. So special use permits do not have to be approved. If this was a use that was permitted by right, you could address issues with the site plan, but that use has to be approved. Anything that requires a special use permit does not have to be approved. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Okay.
Need a very good reason to deny it, to be clear, but it's not sort of an automatic permitted use.
All right. All right. So Tito just said a very important thing. So if in your decisions tonight, it will be very important because of past precedents where the city has been taken into court afterwards, that you have a pretty decent reasoning for which way you're voting. In the past, we've asked members if they're okay with stating that reason as they make their determination. Do you want that tonight as well? A reason for how they're voting, yes or no. Brian has asked this in the past to clearly state what rules we have or what basically by the checklist, what check marks we might be saying yes or no, why we're voting one way or another.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, is everyone okay with doing that? Okay,
This is what makes the situation so difficult. I mean, you've got a situation where the thing is allowed and permitted. You know, how much leeway do we really have when it comes down to making decisions like this? You know, I mean, we've sat here with many dwellings that are being renovated and you're listening to all kinds of reasons why they don't want you to do it, but when it comes right down to it, we don't have any basis for saying no. And that's a problem for me. I mean, I don't know where my comfort level comes in when, you know, this is almost a city council thing where city council has to change. Right? Am I right? Am I right when I say this? You know, if you've got an issue with something like this, city council has to change the use and and what's allowed to be there, more so than us having a leeway to say, well, we don't want this there because we don't
we
don't like it, you know?
We are interpreting the code that has been given to us, and yes,
Exactly. And a lot of times there's not a lot of leeway in that code.
that is true.
I had a question about security. It seems like a lot of issues that were out there were centered around security. What do you have, if something goes bad during the night, do you have people there that are secured, that are ready to handle a situation like that?
Our staff are trained in de-escalation and crisis management. And so if it was something that couldn't be de-escalated, we'd have to ask the person to leave. And if necessary, we'd have to call the police.
All right. Any other questions? Comments? Or needed additional information?
There's people on both sides that would benefit from additional information. I mean, I would feel good if you folks and the business owners were able to get together and have a better understanding of what you're doing and what you're going to do to solve some of their issues and vice versa. Now, again, this goes outside of our, you know, I can't say no because of something like this, but it just, I would feel so much better if this wasn't so much, there's so much animosity that I hate to see a project like this go off with that kind of.
So do we. Unfortunately, we took the time to try to address all the concerns that were raised. And at the end of the day, as you and I both know from sitting here on many different projects, you can only do your best. You can only do what you can do. And I think fundamentally requiring that there be some consensus or some agreement is just simply not going to happen.
Chris?
A question for Tito. I know X number of days in advance, you post on the website the agenda for the planning commission meeting, and you mailed out some sort of notice to property owners within 200 feet, if I remember that detail correctly. The other materials that are submitted, when are those made public? So for example, Sarah and Carmel put together that big list of letters of support, their literature reviews. When is that distributed? So in theory, local business owners and local residents can read that and see what's going on. Is that only being posted after the meeting? Is that posted in advance?
So
what's
in
the
this,
status of that?
in this case, we posted it when we posted the agenda, which I'm looking up the date now. So July 31st, the supplemental materials. So yes, but the supplemental materials were posted. So 24 hours in advance.
Not sure what's legally required. But I would suggest that maybe going forward, more than 24 hours notice, so that interested parties outside those at the table could see and review.
Right.
Especially given the volume of stuff that was submitted on what we all know was a very sensitive project. I mean, this is not like, you know, the guy upgrading his shed in his backyard. I mean, you know, there are a lot of people who care about this project.
Yeah, so the legal notice itself was sent out ahead of schedule. So that was sent out a couple of weeks ago. And that gives information for people to contact the planning department to request information on the application.
All right, well, okay.
The vote in either direction with what I've heard tonight and what I know. I mean, I don't have a big comfort level. I'm with you.
You cast a vote on the project as it's presented right now. But if others feel differently.
Well, I mean, if I have to do it, I'll do it. I don't feel like I have enough. Enough of this is sunk in for me to say I'm comfortable voting one way or the other.
Would any kind of break make any difference, or this is something that you'd like additional time, considerable amount of time?
I don't think for me it would help. I feel like I could vote on this as presented, and given what Tito's had to say and what Joe shared and really what everybody's had to say is that, you know, how I feel about it personally is not necessarily the point, but, you know, acting within this role as a commissioner and doing what's legal, I would vote for it as a permitted use because I don't have a strong enough basis to say no, even though I don't feel like totally satisfied with that. So I guess I'd make a motion that we approve the site plan and somebody can second if they want.
All right. There's a motion by Steve to approve the site plan and special use permit. I'm, in the interest of time, I'm going to second Steve's motion. So for me, because we're going to have to put it on the record for why. This is a very small portion of the building. We're talking about a certain number of days per year, not everyday use. I don't see this as having a huge impact on the neighborhood based on what this project is. I do wish that when you guys were talking about the project, it hadn't been confused with hundreds of employees, because that's not what we're reviewing tonight. We are reviewing a 40-bed warming station on certain nights of the year, and certainly not anything having to do with the future plans of the building. I will say that when it comes time for that, I hope you're very prepared, because I don't see this going away or changing. But for this very small portion of the building, what you're proposing, I do not see that being a problem. And so I second Steve's motion to approve. All right, so all in favor? All right, that's 3 in favor. All opposed?
I'm a nay. I still have unmet concerns about public safety and the compatibility with the general character of the neighborhood. No.
All right, Chris is a no.
Concerns. But I mean, I don't know that I'm as definitive as to say no, but I do have those same concerns. So what's my vote? Can I abstain?
I tell you what. Let's take a bathroom break. because we're putting you on the spot. We should have done a break here to give everyone just a second. We're going on 4 hours here. So we're going to take a 10-minute break and then we will be back with a motion on the table. So it gives everybody a second to regroup and think about it. All right, 10 minutes, 8:55. We'll be back. Thank you. I don't think we're adjourning. We're just taking a little break. All right. Does the lawyer want to? We're not discussing it. We're just everybody's going off on their own. Nobody's discussing it. Wait, let's finish. Can we take the break?
Oh, but Steve's here.
Yeah.
So they could get 4. Yes, 4. They could. It's possible that they could. So they,
Yeah.
1,
A definitive
2.
answer.
Right, he could be the tiebreaker. Yeah. Right.
Talked about it and apparently that's correct. You can't take a break in the middle of a vote. So if everybody wants to just think about it while they're still on the record and we'll, at 8:55.
Nick, if I could just say that regardless of how a member votes, they should have a good reason for doing so, just for the purposes of having a good record. Especially when you have a contentious case where a decision could be challenged by either side of the issue. So a yes vote or a no vote, the members should make that with good reason. If you have members that are not sure why they want to vote yes, there's always the option to table the case. There are other options, but I just wanted to just put that out there that you should not be making a yes or no vote if you're unsure as to why you're making that vote.
All right. All right, so we had a previous yes that would like to change.
You you do have to, you have to finish that vote.
Or withdraw the motion.
Can I withdraw the motion because I think how this played out, we weren't going to get a quorum. Weren't going to get the 4. It was going to be a denial, and I feel like that's not what people really want to do.
All right,
So I withdraw the motion to approve the site plan. So then does somebody need to make a motion to table? I'm unsure what the procedure is after
well,
that.
first, let's make sure we're okay to withdraw the motion.
I think that's okay. You could either make a motion to table or a motion to deny. Or you could, in theory, you could try the motion to approve again.
All right, does Steve need a second for his withdrawal motion and when we vote on that? Or just,
No.
okay, so Steve is withdrawing his motion, which negates it from going to a vote. All right. So we're good on that. What does it do to the process for you guys if we were to table the project tonight? Everybody seems to need a little bit of additional time with everything that was said, which is pretty understandable.
That's fine.
Okay,
I guess my recommendation would be that the public hearing be closed because we are just going to end up in the same place with the same information again. That would include the submission of documents because you're just going to end up then having to open the public hearing again to address any new information. What would be helpful moving forward is some articulation of what you would like or what would be helpful to you. I don't know if that's a conference with your attorney to understand what the process is and what the criteria are. If you need a checklist with the criteria on it so that each of you individually can reflect on that. I don't know what that is, but I think if something doesn't happen, you may well end up in this exact same position at your next meeting.
all right.
But in terms of us, we'd like to be open when the weather gets cold and we have a lot of work to do, but
All right.
What we can do, we can provide the summary of the minutes ahead of time or earlier than usual to you guys, so you can review all of the testimony, all of their answers. And it'll give you some more time to review the letters of support that came in today and came in at this meeting. So I do think that if we get you the minutes, Salon's the one doing the work, so I don't know, I can't speak for him, but if we can get them to you in the next 2 days, that'll give you time to review thoroughly before the next meeting.
All right.
You could. You could, yeah, it's totally up to you.
I guess one question I'd have, if we feel as a commission that we want to refine the proposal to get something that we would all feel good with, how and when that discussion takes place, and it can't be, 3 people in a room, it's got to be in public. So, how to navigate that process, I'll leave it up to somebody that's more knowledgeable at that than I am.
How would you handle it if you wanted? So you need time to come up with specific information you want them to provide. How do you handle that communication to them?
Exactly. Let's just say for hypotheticals that I wanted a stronger screening process. So in addition to disqualifying people who are sex offenders, arsonists, I want A, B, and C as other disqualifying factors. Like, how do I get that submitted for consideration? And not to mention, there's 6 others in this group that may have opinions about similar things like that.
we often hear that as part of the public process, and it's just a conversation that we have when we're sitting here. It's often a tree conversation. How about 3 more trees here, or this light here versus this light here? That's just a conversation we have, and you can impose it as a condition of approval. And as long as it's reasonably related to the project and the issues associated with the project, it's permissible.
I would say that that's type of discussion should happen on the record. So I would say if you want to do that, you can table it. You individually come with your list of questions or required conditions of approval at the next meeting. And those get laid out on the record at that meeting, and then they can agree to whatever they agree to, and then you can approve it with conditions if that's where you're leaning or.
Okay. Great.
I do have a process concern with what's being discussed. If we allow the applicant would effectively be a third bite at the apple, with coming back with a plan C with further changes and addendums to appeal to the 5.5 of us who are voting. The public then, whether for or against, won't be able to address and voice their possible concerns.
So
about what might be happening on plan C.
Well, we wouldn't come with a different plan. This is our plan. We've done as
Right.
much as we think we can do.
If they were to submit more information, then we would have to reopen the public hearing. But if you come with conditions that you want to impose on them, you can do that on the record without reopening the public hearing, the same way that if you were to vote tonight, you could decide that you're going to approve it as long as they add, more crimes to the screening list, or as long as they make the entrance face to the west instead of the east, or whatever condition you wanted to impose, you could do that now. You could do that same thing at the next meeting. Because it's not based on more information that they're submitting to the record. It's just based on the decision you've made.
I would like to make a motion to table this to the September meeting, and that we as a commission come prepared with whatever conditions we want to have considered and bring that to the table. Discussion happens then.
All right. Motion by Steve,
I second that.
seconded by Mario. All in favor? All right. That's 4 in favor. All opposed? All right. Chris is opposed. That's 1 opposed. Motion carries. All right.
Regular meeting or special meeting?
I think, yeah, as the timing is okay with you, so
When is your next meeting?
Want to make sure there's not a holiday of some kind. So the next planning commission meeting is September 12th.
September 12th.
So that unfortunately is not a date that I can be present. So I would then request a special meeting.
Must be a holiday.
The 5th is fine.
Oh, I think there's a conflict with council that day. For some reason, it's not on the 5th, it's on the 12th. It got bumped. I
Okay.
can check the calendar.
All right. You want to play the calendar game? And see who's available for a special meeting?
Yeah, there's a city council work session on the 5th, so they get priority.
Yeah, sorry. We're gonna throw another monkey wrench into this, but I think it's a good question Kelly brought up, is that if we wanted to take a site visit as a commission of 15 Charles Street and then also the church on Chenango Street, can we do that as a group, or if you have 4, then it's considered a quorum and not something you?
If you have a quorum, it's got to be a public meeting, so we would have to put that on the calendar.
Small group visits.
I don't know. That's a good question.
You can't have a quorum, so you'd have to
You
have.
can't afford, so you have to
or
have 3 or
less.
less.
Technically, you could, I think, if it's not a quorum, as long as it's not a quorum.
Or you can go on your own. The purpose behind it is so that, obviously, things aren't discussed outside the public meeting.
Yep.
but you're welcome to do that. And Tito probably does know my email address and we can set that up if anyone's interested.
All right, so if you'd like to schedule a tour, talk to Tito. He's scheduling the tours.
It's a lot of jobs.
Everyone bring their criteria for what they'd like to see addressed at the next meeting, to the next meeting. The next meeting. So Sarah's not available for the scheduled meeting. Is everyone amenable to a special meeting in between? All right. Does everybody have access to their calendars now, or do you want to do it through Basecamp? Yeah. Okay. Is that all right if we try and do it through Basecamp tomorrow?
Yeah, and then I just asked that it be at least a week from today, just so that we can get the word out to the public, even though it's not a public hearing. The date that the meeting's happening.
And you want the minute,
Right.
so that's gonna take.
All right, so starting tomorrow, we'll try and figure out a date for the special meeting. It'll be publicly noticed, publicly announced when that meeting will be. At this point, we haven't closed the public hearing. Is there anything detrimental to not closing the public hearing just in case?
That pushes the meeting date farther out because we would have to do, actually, we don't need to do legal noticing if you announce it at this meeting, so. No, not detrimental. I mean, you would have to allow people to speak at the next meeting as well.
Okay. So your plan then, just to clarify, is not to submit any new information between now and the next meeting that would require talking about it at the next meeting, letting everybody get hold of it and see it.
Correct.
All right, so no new information. All right, then I will close the public hearing tonight for the project. All right, and we made the motion to table. And tomorrow we will start a conversation about what the date for the special meeting will be, and it'll be announced to the public shortly.
It wouldn't hurt to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Seconded by Steve, all in favor? All right, that's 5 in favor, 0 opposed. All right.
Thank
so-
you.
Yes, thank you. There's a lot said. And thank you to everybody who spoke tonight. There's a lot of information provided on both sides. Very valuable. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. They're not here.
So, yeah,
No. All right, so Chris reminded me that there is one more project after this one on our agenda for tonight. You thought you were headed home, but guess again. All right. Sorry. All right, so the last public hearing and final deliberation tonight is for the applicant Marty Dietrich. The project address is 31 Lewis Street. This is a site plan review to construct for the construction of a stair enclosure on the roof of an existing mixed-use building in the C2 Downtown Business District. For the record, Joe has returned to his seat. Welcome back, Joe. All right, the applicant has let us know that they are not going to be here tonight, but the plans were posted and the description of the project was pretty straightforward. Yeah, maybe we'll give it 2 minutes before we start talking about this one.
I can just say the applicant was unable to travel That's why he's not here. This is a structure that was previously approved by COD. Years ago, it was never built. Since then, the proposed structure has been scaled down. It's really a utility structure on the roof of the Kilmer building. It's an enclosure for the staircase. COD approved it this morning. It requires site plan review because it's new construction. But the use is there's no change of use. It has no use. It's a utility structure for the building.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments about that project? Concerns? None. Yeah, makes sense. All right, any motions to approve? All right. Motion to approve.
I'm sorry, you need a vote to waive the public hearing for this.
Oh, all right,
And you can do that because it's a type 2 action.
all right, all right. Motion to waive the public hearing because it's a type 2 action by Chris, seconded by Kelly. All in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. And I'll make a motion that the requirements for site plan review have been met. Second by Steve, all in favor? All right, 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, that's on to other business. That concludes public hearings. Other business. Anybody have any other business they want to talk about tonight? All right, no other business. And motion to adjourn by Steve, second by Kelly, all in favor. 6 in favor, 0 opposed. All right, thank you, everyone.